Chapter 23:52. Mo Tiangong nodded with satisfaction. It's not too difficult. Some of my disciples want to learn the great way of refining from you. I hope you can teach them. Su Fang touched the tip of his nose and asked curiously, Senior, you're the top master of refining in all the worlds. Why do you want your disciples to learn the great way of refining from me? The great way of refining is the same as a cultivator's cultivation. I got Grandmaster Tianbao's great way of refining from you, as well as his experience in refining. I've been comprehending and verifying it over the years, and I've learned a lot. However, since I embarked on the path of cultivation, the cultivation methods and great ways I've practiced are different from Grandmaster Tianbao's great way of refining. Therefore, it's difficult for me to reach the peak of his great way of refining. But you're different. Not only have you comprehended it, but you've also integrated the great way of refining into your cultivation. You've already grasped the essence of the great way of refining. Even I'm not as good as you. After hearing Mo Tiangong's explanation, Su Fang finally understood. I happen to be short of a master of refining. With your disciples, I can also teach my disciples. It's killing two birds with one stone. Su Fang nodded and agreed. Mo Tiangong immediately sent a message to the giant mountain where the artifact hall was. A moment later, more than 100 master of refining flew over the sky from the top of the mountain. QL11 Su Fang performed the power of the great completeness and scanned the master of refining. He was pleasantly surprised to find that these master of refining not only had high cultivation, but also had rich primordial purple qi. Some of the old men even had the aura of divine artifacts of creation. From this, it could be concluded that Mo Tiangong's disciples and grand disciples' artifact refining skills were absolutely not low. Although they were not as good as Mo Tiangong, they could still be regarded as first-class artifact refining grandmasters in the universe. 3. Su Fang was not surprised that Grandmaster Tianbao was among them. He took all the master of refining into the builder wood. He did not expect that Mo Tiangong would also send a young spirit into the builder wood with his disciples to cultivate the great way of refining with them. Su Fang asked Xian Lingzi to create an artifact refining hall to settle these artifact refining masters. Su Fang peeled off a strand of yang spirit and imparted the great Tao of refining to them. At the same time, he also selected cultivators with talent to learn how to refine magic treasures from these artifact refiners. In this way, Su Fang's treasure refining Tao temple was established. There should be quite a lot of great pregnant purple qi in the artifact hall. The artifact hall gathered the best artifact forging masters and geniuses from all over the universe. What they forged were all powerful magic treasures. The great pregnant purple qi that was produced when the magic treasures were born would definitely be abundant after so many years. Su Fang activated his purple cloud Dharma spirit and combined it with his perfection stage ability, enveloping the entire artifact hall with his sensing power. Who knew in the end, Su Fangdao was disappointed. He could only sense a very weak aura of great pregnancy from the various training halls, which was far below Su Fang's expectations. Su Fangdao was puzzled. What's going on? Mo Tiangong said, Are you planning to absorb the great pregnant purple qi in the artifact hall? The heavenly fire divine lord would come to the artifact hall every once in a while. I guess he's here for the great pregnant purple qi. Naturally, it won't be your turn. I see. Su Fang was enlightened. He thought to himself, it won't be long before I take his purple cloud Dharma spirit from the heavenly fire divine lord. The great pregnant purple qi in the artifact hall is equivalent to him helping me collect it. With this thought, Su Fang had nothing to be depressed about. Next, Su Fang entered the training halls and plundered all the magic treasures, materials in the training halls. He didn't even let go of the artifact cauldron. Once again, he lived up to his name of Su Wang and left with a full load. Passing through the huge formation, he arrived at the Inkuan cavern abode where the Pill Pagoda was. Saint Su Fang, you're really here? An alchemist from the Duanmu divine clan came out from the boundary of the Pill Pagoda. His name was Duanmu Senator. When Su Fang traded with the Duanmu divine clan in the past, he had interacted with this person. Hence, he was no stranger to this person. Duanmu Sun was also quite impressive. He was a big shot in the Pill Pagoda. He was an alchemist master who could refine the divine pill of creation. He was second only to the elder from the Duanmu divine clan who guarded the Pill Pagoda. As Su Fang had taken away the builder tree, the Duanmu divine clan naturally hated him. Duanmu Sin seemed to be smiling, but there was a hidden fierceness in his deep eyes. Since Master Duanmu knows why I'm here, that's great. Please give me the elixirs in the Pill Pagoda. I'll leave immediately after I get them, Su Fang said as he cupped his fists. I've already prepared them for you, Saint Su Fang. A mocking look flashed in Duanmu Sen's deep eyes. He waved his hand and a Xian Guang appeared. A storage ring flew towards Su Fang. He grabbed the storage ring and sent his primordial spirit into it. Su Fang saw that there were only 1,000 creation saint pills and 1,000,000 pills in the storage ring. They were all middle-grade divine essence pills. Su Fang raised his brows. Master Duanmu, you must be joking with me. Just 1,000 divine essence pills of creation and 1,000,000 middle-grade divine essence pills are enough to send me away? Duanmu Sun looked troubled. Saint, you might not know this, but the Yuan Tiangong recently took away almost all of the Pill Pagoda's stockpile in order to clear out the resurrected powerful cultivators in the Hunyuan Heaven World's periphery. The Pill Pagoda barely squeezed out these elixirs for you. Is that so? Su Fang smiled coldly. Fine. Since you don't have any elixirs, I won't make things difficult for the Pill Pagoda. Take out some of the Pill Pagoda's alchemy materials. Duanmu Sin said with a fake smile. I'm sorry, but there aren't many alchemy materials left in the Pill Pagoda. I really can't squeeze them out. If you don't believe me, you can check the Pill Pagoda's storeroom. Then I'll have to make a trip there personally. Su Fang snorted. Saint, please. Duanmu Sun led the way in front. The two of them passed through the barrier, and a tall pagoda with more than 10 floors appeared before them. After entering the Pill Pagoda, they arrived at the secret storeroom used to store alchemy materials. Indeed, as Duanmu Sun had said, apart from some worthless materials used to refine ordinary pills, there were no other valuable materials in the secret storeroom. Next, apart from the Pill Pagoda's top-level alchemy area, Su Fang went to every other alchemy cave abode in the Pill Pagoda. All he saw were cold cauldrons for alchemy. Where were the elixirs and materials? The Pill Pagoda's alchemists were either meditating or chatting beside their cauldrons. They all looked very relaxed. Upon seeing Su Fang's gloomy expression, Duanmu Sen's eyes were filled with disdain and mockery. Looks like the Pill Pagoda really doesn't have any elixirs or alchemy materials. I'll take my leave then. Su Fang flicked his sleeves and left. Upon sensing Su Fang flying out of the Pill Pagoda, many Pill Pagoda's alchemists gathered around Duanmu. Senator Duanmu Sun sneered disdainfully. What are you being so arrogant for? The Pill Pagoda is not a place where you can act wantonly. I won't give you a single elixir. What can you do? An alchemy master said worriedly that Su Fang is currently being arrogant and despotic in the Yuan Tiangong. He doesn't even care about the Supreme Imperial Venerables. Master, you made him suffer this time. I'm afraid he won't let this matter rest. If he won't let this matter rest, how can the Duanmu divine clan let him off so easily? Duanmu Sun said coldly. Let him be arrogant for a while. After 100,000 years, not only the Supreme Imperial people, but also the Sanskrit, the Luo clan, the Yi clan, and even the Duanmu divine clan won't let him off. At that time, he will have to obediently spit out everything that he has taken. He won't even be able to keep his life. Duanmu Sen's domineering voice had just sounded. Su Fang's cold voice suddenly sounded. Is that so? Immediately after, a divine light flashed from the interior of the Pill Pagoda and instantly condensed into Su Fang's figure. Duanmu Sen and the other alchemy masters of the Pill Pagoda were all stunned. They originally thought that Su Fang was just a Dao integration stage immortal. Moreover, the interior of the Pill Pagoda was blocked by a vast barrier. Thus, it was impossible for him to hear the voices inside. That was why they dared to talk about Su Fang so brazenly. They didn't expect Su Fang's sensing ability to be so amazing that he could hear their conversation clearly. Duanmu Sen quickly returned to normal. It was just a casual discussion. What else could Su Fang do? Duanmu Sen said embarrassedly, "Why did the Holy Sun come back?" Su Fang's sharp gaze focused on Duanmu Sr. "You just said that after I enter the heavenly venerate mountain, the supreme imperial people, Sanskrit, the Yi clan, the Luo clan, and your Duanmu divine clan will kill me?" Everyone knew that Su Fang had fallen out with the imperial people and offended the supreme imperial people. The Sanskrit, the Luo clan, and the Yi clan all had deep enmity with Su Fang. After 100,000 years, regardless of whether Su Fang succeeded or failed in entering the heavenly venerate mountain, he would be mercilessly suppressed by these powerful forces. However, knowing was one thing, saying it out loud was another. Only then did Duanmu Sen realize that the matter was a little serious. His expression stiffened and he forced a smile. "I was just saying it casually?" Su Fang revealed a look of grief and indignation. "For the sake of the myriad worlds, I'm going to risk my life and enter the heavenly venerate mountain. The imperial people, the Sanskrit, the Luo clan, the Yi clan, and your Duanmu divine clan actually want to kill me after this." Duanmu Sen's expression changed drastically. He said in a trembling voice, "Holy Son, please don't take it seriously. I have a cheap mouth and slandered you. I didn't expect that I, Su Fang, would have to suffer such merciless treatment after this. Anyway, I will die sooner or later. I won't go to the heavenly venerate mountain." Su Fang became more and more miserable as he spoke. His face was bleak as he turned to leave. Duanmu Sen was completely flustered. "Holy Son, please wait. I just misspoke. I'm willing to admit my mistake and apologize." "Just admit your mistake and apologize." Su Fang's expression changed. His eyes suddenly became sharp and cold. "After hearing your words, my Dao heart has been shaken. It will be difficult for me to make any progress in the next 100,000 years. Even if I enter the heavenly venerate mountain, I will return empty-handed. Just admit my mistake and apologize?" Duanmu Sen knew that Su Fang wanted to take the opportunity to extort him. He immediately relaxed. At most, he would just have to compensate Su Fang with some benefit. "Holy Son, what do you want?" An elder came through the array formation. It was the alchemy master from the Duanmu divine clan overseeing the Pill Tower. Seeing the elder appear, Duanmu Sen and the other alchemists instantly became very confident. "Where is the Brahma Dharch?" Chapter 23:53. Sanskrit's Di Zun emerged from the void. "What do you want now?" Brahmadi was also extremely depressed. As a Di Zun expert, he was being ordered around by Su Fang like a hired thug. How could he not be depressed? Su Fang pointed at Duanmu Sen and said, "This person just said that Sanskrit will kill me after I return from the celestial worthy mountain, so I invited Brahmadi here to verify it." "Junior of the Duanmu divine clan, how dare you slander Sanskrit?" Brahmadi shouted angrily. The anger of a Di Zun was like the anger of the heavenly Tao. How terrifying was that? Duanmu Sen felt as if he had been hit by a mountain. He was sent flying and slammed into a huge cauldron. The cauldron shook and let out a loud rumble. A hole was formed in the cauldron that had been tempered thousands of times. Duanmu Sen's divine body was smashed and he spat out blood. Brahmadi had shown mercy and did not even use 1% of his strength. Otherwise, Duanmu Sun would have been turned into ashes in an instant. Lord Brahmadi, please calm down. I know my mistake. Duanmu Sen's body was badly mutilated. He did not even dare to swallow the elixirs and struggled to kneel before Brahmadi. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan was also trembling in fear. He did not dare to say a word. He glared at Duanmu Sun and cursed in his heart. This fool doesn't know what's good for him. Everyone knows that Sanskrit will not let Su Fang go, but no one dares to say it. Yet you idiot said it in front of everyone. How can Brahmadi not be angry? Brahmadi snorted and looked at Su Fang. What do you think we should do? Su Fang's divine light swept over everyone. How dare you talk nonsense about the supreme beings of the imperial people, the Di-Zun experts, and the powerful divine clans. What's worse is that you have shaken my Tao heart. You deserve to die. Lord Brahmadi, kill all of them! Kill all of them! Brahmadi raised his eyebrows. He was shocked by Su Fang's ruthlessness. Duanmu Sun and the other alchemists turned pale with fright and looked at the Duanmu divine clan's old man for help. These alchemists are all first-rate alchemists of Primordius Heavenly Palace. They only spoke a few words behind the Saint's son's back, and said a few wrong words, and yet the Saint's son wants their lives. This is too excessive. The Duanmu divine clan old man grimly said. Just a few wrong words? This saint came to the Pill Tower this time, and was played like a monkey by these alchemists. How can this saint let them off so easily? Su Fang was unforgiving and revealed his intentions. So the saint's son is here for the pills and ingredients of the Pill Tower. I'll just give them all to you. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan took out a dozen storage rings and tossed them towards Su Fang. So many medicinal pills. Seeing the pills in the storage ring, Su Fang was shocked. He was truly worthy of being called a first-rate alchemy grandmaster of the myriad worlds. Within his storage ring, there were over 1,000,000 good fortune saint pills, as well as over 1,000,000 other rare pills. There were even more king-grade pills that surpassed top-grade. There were also countless alchemy ingredients in the storage ring. Even the powerful divine clans in the ancient divine world could not take out so many alchemy ingredients in such a short time. However, when he thought about how there were so many experts in the builder tree in his inner world, he knew that he wouldn't have another chance like this in the future. In any case, he already had a bad reputation as Su Huang, so he might as well act domineeringly once more. With that thought in mind, Su Fang revealed a domineering smile. I'm related to the safety of the myriad worlds. Now that my Tao heart has been shaken, it has already affected my future cultivation. How can mere pills and materials appease the anger in my heart? At this moment, Su Fang looked like an insatiable hungry wolf. Brahmadi frowned. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan was even more furious. Su Fang, what do you want? Su Fang pointed at the alchemists. As punishment, these people will refine pills for me for 10,000 years. After 10,000 years, I will restore their freedom. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan was furious. Su Fang, don't go too far. You're just a petty person, Brahmadi said. It's just refining pills for them for 10,000 years. It's not like I want their lives. Why are you making excuses? He was also annoyed by Su Fang and wanted to get rid of Su Fang as soon as possible. With that, Brahmadi reached out and grabbed. A ray of divine light enveloped all the alchemists except the old man from the Duanmu divine clan and forcefully sent them into Su Fang's inner world. Thank you, Brahmadi. Su Fang Dao was overjoyed and thanked Brahmadi with cupped fists. Humph, Brahmadi snorted. With a flash of divine light, he disappeared from the Pill Pagoda. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan could only watch as so many alchemists from the Pill Pagoda fell into Su Fang's hands. Sorry for disturbing you, Senior Duanmu. Su Fang cupped his fists at the old man from the Duanmu divine clan and smiled embarrassedly. I haven't been to the top floor of the Pill Pagoda. Senior Duanmu, please lead the way for me. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan gritted his teeth. Su Fang, you won't even let go of my cave abode. I'm impressed. Please. Su Fang did not stand on ceremony. He followed the old man from the Duanmu divine clan through the vast barrier and entered the top floor of the Pill Pagoda. On the top floor of the Pill Pagoda, each room had its own unique space. Each room was a refinery training ground with a master alchemist overseeing it. For the sake of not letting down the name of Su Huang, Su Fang took all the medicinal pills, medicinal materials, and even the treasured cauldrons of those alchemy grandmasters everywhere he went, causing those alchemy grandmasters to be angered to the point of spitting blood. Finally, Su Fang arrived at the training ground of the old man from the Duanmu divine clan. After entering a cave abode, Su Fang immediately saw a black cauldron. Mysterious heavenly marks were engraved on the cauldron, forming a picture of the sun, moon, and stars. It exuded a vast and ancient aura. It was a creation divine artifact. A strange fragrance kept coming out of the cauldron. The fragrance rose in spirals, transforming into all kinds of strange heavenly Tao fragrances. A supreme aura of the great Tao permeated the entire cave abode. What kind of elixir is being refined in the cauldron? Su Fang was shocked and asked the old man from the Duanmu divine clan. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan said coldly, "Mountain melting elixir." Su Fang was stunned. Mountain melting elixir? What a strange name. The mountain in the mountain melting elixir is not an ordinary mountain. It's the exalted celestial mountain. Su Fang's heart skipped a beat and his eyes burned with desire. No matter what the elixir was used for, it was definitely not an ordinary elixir, since it was related to the exalted celestial mountain. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan said proudly, "I spent 100,000 years refining this pill using countless creation spiritual items, a wisp of the exalted celestial mountain's aura, and countless amounts of the Di-Yuan Holy Sun's blood essence. It was tailor-made for him." A elixir refined for the Di-Yuan Holy Sun? Su Fang was stunned. That's right. After consuming this elixir, the Di-Yuan Holy Sun will have the supreme ability to communicate with the exalted celestial mountain. He will be able to display the heavenly Tao's might and his strength will increase tremendously. No one in the universe will be able to compete with him. There's actually such a heaven-defying elixir. Su Fang's gaze that looked at the medicinal cauldron became a little more scorching once again. His eyes filled with greed. How could he not be tempted by such a heaven-defying mountain fusion elixir? Even those venerable sovereigns would be tempted by such a heaven-defying elixir. However, this elixir was only useful to the Di-Yuan Holy Sun. It wouldn't be of much use to venerable sovereigns. To Su Fang, however, there were no restrictions. He possessed the devouring ability of the blue sky underworld. His primal chaos divine lattice contained all kinds of great Taos. Moreover, he had the world in his body. Naturally, there wouldn't be any restrictions. Moreover, this elixir belonged to the Di-Yuan Holy Sun. After the Di-Yuan Holy Sun failed at the exalted celestial mountain, he became deranged. He forced Xuanxin to marry him and humiliated Su Fang's family and friends. If it weren't for the fact that the imperial people were supreme existences, Su Fang would have killed 10 Di-Yuan Holy Suns. Moreover, the Di-Yuan Holy Sun even challenged Su Fang to a battle of life and death 100 years later. Su Fang wouldn't let go of such a heaven-defying elixir that could help the Di-Yuan Holy Sun improve. This cauldron is pretty good. Su Fang sized up the cauldron with a greedy look. The Duanmu divine clan elder's expression changed. This cauldron is my precious cauldron for refining elixirs. Not only for my race but also for the entire universe. If you dare to snatch my treasure, I will stop you even if I have to risk my life. Su Fang said helplessly, "In that case, I don't want this cauldron anymore. However, that mountain harmony pill belongs to me." The Duanmu divine clan elder scoffed. That's the Holy Sun's elixir. You want it too? Senior Duanmu, you are trying to provoke me. You brought me here so that I can snatch Diyuan's mountain harmony pill and use it to sow discord between Diyuan and me, right? Su Fang saw through Duanmu divine clan elder's intentions and immediately exposed him. Then, he said domineeringly, I don't need you to sow discord. I will still step on Diyuan's head. His mountain harmony pill is mine. The Holy Sun is indeed a smart person. Then I will fulfill your wish. The old man from the Duanmu divine clan snorted and performed a hand seal. Buzz. A faint golden light shot up from the cauldron into the sky. Immediately after, a ball of golden light shot out of the cauldron and flew out of the cave abode. The Duanmu divine clan elder had already expected this. He formed a hand seal and shackled the golden Xian Guang. The golden light flickered rapidly and finally turned into a golden elixir the size of a walnut. It was densely covered with mysterious heavenly marks that intertwined to form the image of a mountain peak. It was the heavenly venerable mountain. Su Fang used his divine power to sweep the elixir into his hand. He then sealed it layer by layer and finally stored it deep within his body. Senior Duanmu, you can tell Diyuan directly that I have taken his mountain harmony pill. Also, tell him that I will repay him tenfold what he owes me, Su Fang. I will take everything that belongs to him and leave him with only his life. I will let him have a taste of being humiliated. Su Fang revealed a domineering smile and cupped his fists at the Duanmu divine clan elder before leaving. Chapter 23:54. Su Fang left the Pill Pagoda and arrived at the main hall in front of the Dubhe Hall. Holy Sun, this old man has been waiting for a long time. It turned out that Greyflame C was waiting for him in the Dubhe Hall. Lord Greyflame C, it has been a long time. Su Fang clasped his fist and greeted politely. Su Fang had met Greyflame C back in the Azure Dome starfield. Back then, Su Fang was only a weak deity emperor realm cultivator, while Greyflame C was a powerful overgod. Su Fang had to look up to him. Su Fang's relationship with Greyflame C was not as close as his relationship with Sheng Wuji and Mo Tiangong. When Su Fang entered the divine prison of law, everyone thought that he had died. Greyflame C continued to stay in the Sanctum of Sages, but the master of the Sanctum of Sages was changed to Diyuan. Holy Sun Su Fang, this old man is here on orders to return the Sanctum of Sages to you. Greyflame C explained. Su Fang was surprised. Diyuan is willing to hand over the Sanctum of Sages? Greyflame C replied. This old man is just following orders. As for what happened to Holy Sun Diyuan, this old man has no idea. The Sanctum of Sages is finally mine again. Su Fang was overjoyed. The Sanctum of Sages was a fortune divine artifact, and its cultivation environment surpassed that of a heaven realm Dao Plaza. Now that it was back in his hands, how could Su Fang not be happy? After leaving the Dubhe space, Su Fang returned to the Yuan Tiangong world and returned to the Sanctum of Sages. The guards were still the same as before, but many of them had died in the divine prison of law. Later on, 1,000 guards were replenished. With the help of the Holy Sun token, Su Fang reintegrated the Sanctum of Sages and entered the main hall. At this moment, he had placed all of his subordinates within the Builder Tree within his inner world. This time, he had also looted all of the various treasures and resources within the Alpha Hall. With such a good cultivation holy ground and such frightening cultivation resources, he naturally wanted to bring everyone along to improve. As a result, Su Fang released his father, Su Yaotian, Xian Yintian, Xian Lingzi, Shu Yunkong, and the other elders, as well as his friends and subordinates in the upper world and the myriad worlds, with the exception of those who had yet to become true gods, from the Builder Tree. He distributed all kinds of resources to them and allowed them to cultivate in the Sanctum of Sages. Of course, the newly subdued Ji people who changed their surnames to Li, as well as the cultivators of the Ji people's former vassal forces, were not qualified to enjoy such treatment. The resources that Su Fang had taken out and the cultivation environment of the Sanctum of Sages had left everyone flabbergasted. It was as if a bunch of country bumpkins had just stumbled into a majestic royal palace, and they were so excited that they could not even tell which direction was which. With so many resources in the Sanctum of Sages, my kin, friends, and subordinates will surely be able to become experts within the next 100,000 years. Even if I came out of the celestial worthy mountain and was suppressed by the imperial people, they could still rely on their own strength to gain a foothold in the myriad worlds. It turned out that Su Fang was not only making use of the Sanctum of Sages to raise his overall strength, he was also preparing for the worst. In any case, it would be a waste if he did not make use of the Sanctum of Sages at this moment. There were 1,000 sub-halls in the Sanctum of Sages, and that was equivalent to 1,000 worlds. It was more than enough to accommodate so many people to cultivate simultaneously. No one could predict the outcome of the expedition to the celestial worthy mountain 100,000 years later. The only thing that Su Fang could do now was to seize every moment and raise the strength of himself, his kin, and his subordinates by hook or by crook. In another 100 years, after dealing with Di Yuan, I should enter the Palace of Dissension to save Senior Luo. At the same time, I have to find Qingyu, Sister Bai, and Luo's whereabouts. After settling everyone down, Su Fang pondered for a moment before settling down and digesting the results of his crazy plundering. The harvest this time was simply too boundless. Even though Su Fang's Jinchi world was a bottomless pit, with so many resources, he would not have to worry about running out of cultivation resources for the next 100,000 years. From the vast sea of resources, Zhang Xian picked out spirit materials suitable for Gui Gui, draconic bird, and prehistoric inflammation and had them cultivate in the side halls of the Sanctum of Sages. Meanwhile, Su Fang entered the Hall of Spring and Autumn. In the Hall of Spring and Autumn, Su Fang traversed through the vast formations as if traversing through the endless river of time. Eventually, Su Fang arrived at a region where the flow of time was 100 times faster than the outside world. With the increase in his strength, the flow of time that Su Fang could withstand had also more than doubled. In the past, he could only withstand 50 times the flow of time, but now, he could withstand 100 times the flow of time. This was the difference in strength between before and after. Sitting down cross-legged, Su Fang used the azure blood dome to devour pills and spirit materials wantonly. At the same time, he also cultivated all kinds of cultivation techniques and abilities, mainly the 9 yang transformations, heavenly fate shrinking technique, heavenly evolution arcane scripture, and ethereal scripture. Now, he also had the addition of the yin-yang transformation and 4 divisions transformation. While Su Fang was immersed in his cultivation in the Sanctum of Sages, his wanton plundering of the Alpha Hall, Artifact Hall, and Pill Pagoda had caused a huge uproar in the Yuan Tiangong. This was too crazy. A single person had actually plundered the Alpha Hall clean. Even sovereigns would not dare to act so recklessly. Why are the imperial people and supreme sovereigns so conniving with Su Fang? Although Su Fang might be able to enter the supreme celestial mountain and find the reason for the upheaval, it's only a possibility after all. How dare he act so arrogantly now? He must be severely punished. What right does he have to fight for so many resources by himself? He's too domineering, too arrogant. Hearing this news, everyone was shocked. Then, their anger towards Su Fang was enough to burn the world down. This was especially true for the geniuses from the ancient divinity world, as well as some major factions and god clans. However, the supreme existences of the imperial people did not say anything. The sovereigns were also collectively speechless, and their anger gradually subsided. Heavenly Realm Training Hall. In a magnificent palace hidden in the void, Di Yuan's angry roar like an injured beast could be heard. Su Fang, you took away my Sanctum of Sages and my Mountain Fusion pill. I, Yuan, will not live under the same sky as you. In the challenge 100 years later, it's either you die or I die. During the marriage ceremony, the savior of the universe was exposed by Su Fang, causing Yuan to lose face and almost be suppressed by Su Fang. Then, the sanctum of sages was taken back by the upper echelons of the imperial people and returned to Su Fang. These days, Yuan fell into a state of madness, but he did not sink. He cultivated in the heavenly realm all day long, hoping to redeem his face in the challenge 100 years later. Unexpectedly, Su Fang also took away his mountain fusion pill in the pill pagoda. This caused Yuan to completely lose his mind. Yuan, your Tao heart has been blinded by hatred. What you need now is to calm down. The supreme existences of the imperial people appeared from the void and quickly became real. Sir. Yuan did not completely go crazy. After seeing the supreme existences of the imperial people, he quickly bowed. However, there was a look of indignation in his deep eyes. Yuan, you've disappointed me, do you know that? The supreme existences of the imperial people stared at Yuan, their eyes filled with disappointment. Yuan looked ashamed and lowered his head. I'm useless. I failed at the celestial worthy mountain and humiliated the supreme existences of the imperial people. That's why Su Fang dared to be so arrogant in front of the imperial people. Even Sir can't do anything to him. You're wrong. What disappointed me was not your failure at the celestial worthy mountain, but your performance after your failure. The supreme existences of the imperial people said in a deep voice. Which true expert didn't go through all sorts of twists and turns before they reached the highest peak? They experienced countless near-death experiences. In the end, they relied on their tenacious cultivator's heart to surpass all difficulties and obstacles and finally reach the peak. Those venerable sovereigns, even me and the guardian of the mountain, were the same. As for you, because of one failure, your Tao heart began to be disturbed. How can you talk about surpassing others and reaching the peak? The supreme existences of the imperial people's words made Yuan's back bend. After a pause, the supreme existences of the imperial people continued. Yuan, give up on the challenge in 100 years. Give up on the challenge? Yuan suddenly raised his head and looked at the supreme existences of the imperial people in disbelief. After thinking about it calmly, it was not difficult for Yuan to understand why the supreme existences of the imperial people would make such an arrangement. If Yuan failed to challenge Su Fang, it meant that the dignity of the imperial people was challenged again, and their prestige would be damaged again. If Yuan won, of course, the chances of him winning were extremely slim. Even if he won, what could he do to Su Fang? Su Fang was the only key person who could stop the catastrophe. Not only the imperial people, but also any forces in the universe would not allow Su Fang to be hurt in the slightest and affect the plan to enter the celestial worthy mountain in 100,000 years. Whether he won or lost, it was meaningless. The supreme existences of the imperial people naturally wanted to cancel the challenge. If I fail, how can I still have the face to establish myself in the universe? Yuan cried out in disbelief. You really disappoint me. Your goal is to reach the highest peak in the universe, to transcend heaven and earth. Now you are even fighting a meaningless battle for a person who is about to die. How can I not be disappointed? A person who is about to die. Yuan understood the meaning behind the supreme existences of the imperial people's words, and his gaze suddenly became hale and hearty. Laughable face is the most unimportant thing. The most important thing is to live. When you have enough strength, even venerable sovereigns will be in awe and tremble for you when they hear your name. At that time, who would dare to laugh at you? Yuan thought for a long time and raised his head. Yuan understands. It's good that you understand. In a few days, the Yuan Tiangong will send you to the most dangerous battlefield to fight against the resurrected powerhouses. In 100,000 years, if you can survive, you will still be the #1 genius of the imperial people, the #1 person in the Yuan Tiangong. Yes. Di Yuan pulled himself together. Although he was not as spirited as before, there was a determination and perseverance that he had never had before. On a desolate planet far away from the Hunyuan heaven realm, this used to be a divine realm. Later, it became desolate and the gods gradually moved out of the planet. This place was also abandoned, and even the resurrected powerhouses did not visit this place. However, the Yuan Tiangong created a realm-crossing stargate here. From the Yuan Tiangong, one could directly travel through the void to reach this place. Because it was very secretive, no one knew that there was a realm-crossing stargate here except for the upper echelons of the Yuan Tiangong and a few geniuses. Whoosh, following the distortion of space, a figure walked out of the realm-crossing stargate. This person looked old, and there was a faint tribulation fire surging in his eyes. It was the heavenly fire deity. That damned Su Fang, he was actually so arrogant that he even dared to plunder Dubhe Hall. If I didn't leave Primordius' heavenly palace ahead of time, he might have come knocking on my door and forcefully stolen my purple energy law spirit. Humph, I can't afford to offend him. Can't I hide? The heavenly fire deity's face was full of resentment, and he looked extremely helpless. The heavenly fire deity had come here to avoid Su Fang and prevent Su Fang from robbing his purple cloud Dharma spirit. Chapter 23:55. 50 years passed in the blink of an eye. Su Fang had spent 5,000 years in the Hall of Spring and Autumn. On this day, Su Fang flashed out of the Hall of Spring and Autumn and went to the depths of the main hall. Just as he sat down cross-legged, he heard a sizzling sound and the tribulation aura shot out from his body. Then, the tribulation fire started to burn. It turned out that after so many years of cultivation, Su Fang had reached the peak of the 8th heaven of the Tao integration stage and was about to break through to the 9th heaven. Together with the 9 yang divine fire and the illusory fire cloud, the tribulation fire burned wildly. The tribulation fire burned his flesh, blood, meridians, bones, organs. His body trembled violently. Layers of impurities seeped out of his body and turned into ashes in the tribulation fire. The tribulation fire was extremely shocking. It lasted for about 3 years before it gradually disappeared. The power of advancement in his body started to surge. His divine body welcomed the shattering, transformation, and reconstruction. The 8 heavenly marks in his body finally increased to 9. The number 9 represented the perfection of heaven and earth. It meant that Su Fang had reached the highest level of the Tao integration stage, the 9th heaven of the Tao integration stage. One more step and he would reach the pinnacle of cultivation, the Master God. Feeling the changes in his body, Su Fang was very happy. His successive advancements were not only an increase in his strength, but also a kind of affirmation for his hard work in cultivation. Su Fang realized that apart from the changes in his body, divine apertures, and Tao Palace, most of the heavenly marks were the aura of the world in his body. This meant that his integration with the heavenly Tao was about to reach perfection. Besides, Su Fang had a strong feeling that it would be extremely difficult to become a master god. It was not because of the lack of resources, nor was it because of the shackles in his cultivation. It was because Yuan Tiangong was no longer enough for him to become a master god. After all, Yuan Tiangong was a world jointly created by the supreme beings of the imperial people and many venerable sovereigns. It was not perfect. It was like a lake that could no longer contain Su Fang, the true dragon. The vast ocean was the true dragon's world. After his breakthrough, Su Fang felt a sense of emptiness in his body. He hurriedly swallowed pills to recover, striving to stabilize his cultivation base at the 9th heaven of the Tao integration stage before his final battle with Di Yuan. Saint, I have something urgent to report. Just as he was about to return to the Hall of Spring and Autumn to cultivate, Azure Flame Ocean sent him a message. What is it? The imperial people sent someone over to say that Di Yuan has already cancelled the challenge. Di Yuan cancelled the challenge? Su Fang was both shocked and stunned. With Di Yuan's pride, he actually cancelled the challenge? Since Di Yuan challenged the son of Saint, he would lose without a doubt. For the sake of the imperial people's reputation, it's perfectly normal for the imperial people to force him to cancel the challenge. I heard that Di Yuan has already been sent to the battlefield of the two realms. He won't be back for a while. Humph. Originally, I wanted to make use of this challenge to help Xuanxin vent his anger. Who would have thought that Di Yuan would actually slip away? If I had known earlier, I would have made a blood oath with him. Following that, Azure Flame Ocean added, "There's one more thing I need to report to the Son of Saint. Not long ago, Heavenly Fire Divine Lord suddenly left Yuan Tiangong. His whereabouts are unknown. There was no one in Primordius Heavenly Palace that didn't know of the matters between Heavenly Fire Divine Lord and Su Fang. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord was a Grandmaster Artificer that was second to none in the myriad worlds. Now that he had suddenly left Primordius Heavenly Palace, it had caused a great stir. Ash Flame Sea naturally had to inform Su Fang. Even Heavenly Fire Divine Lord slipped away? Su Fang was filled with regret. He felt conflicted and remorseful. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord must have left Yuan Tiangong because he had been frightened by Su Fang's ransacking of Alpha Hall. If he had known this would happen, he would have captured Heavenly Fire Divine Lord directly and stripped him of his purple cloud Dharma spirit. How could such a thing have happened? How could a mighty overgod escape just like that? He's an overgod expert after all. To escape just like that, he doesn't have the demeanor of a peerless overgod expert. Su Fang had not expected Heavenly Fire Divine Lord to be so cowardly. Heavenly Fire Divine Lord was not cowardly, but Su Fang's name, Su Huang, was too frightening. He had snatched the Builder Tree from the Emperor Expert of the Duanmu Divine Clan and plundered all the treasures in Alpha Hall. How could Heavenly Fire Divine Lord not be afraid when the Emperor Expert and the peerless existences of the Imperial people could not do anything to him? Su Fang snorted coldly in his heart. Humph, Heavenly Fire Divine Lord, even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will catch you. Your purple cloud Dharma spirit belongs to Su Fang. Azure Flame Ocean continued, Saint, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Hold on, Su Fang stopped him. My lord, please pass down the order for the guards to leave the Hunyuan Heaven Realm. At the same time, issue a mission in Alpha Hall to find my subordinate, Fan Ming, and my 2 Yao friends. If you find them, I'm willing to give you a half-creation artifact. Su Fang activated the power of the Yin-Yang world and condensed the figures of Fan Ming, Qing Yu, and Bai Ling. They formed a rune talisman and flew from the array into Azure Flame Ocean's hand. Fan Ming, Qing Yu, and Bai Ling had gone out to protect the Ji people's geniuses. However, some of them had not returned, which worried Su Fang very much. Qing Yu and Bai Ling, the 2 big goblin, were like Su Fang's family. He could not afford to lose them. Generous rewards would attract brave men. Su Fang had to find them at all costs. The resources in Su Fang's hands were not even comparable to those of venerable sovereigns. He had even plundered a few half-creation artifacts from Alpha Hall and Artifact Hall. However, he did not have a creation artifact. A creation artifact of this level was already the best treasure in the myriad heavens. Although it was sold in Alpha Hall, it was impossible to put the real thing in Alpha Hall. Therefore, Su Fang did not manage to find one. Also, help me find out about the Azure Divine Clan. Su Fang did not forget about Luo Feng and reminded him. Yes. Azure Flame Ocean left in shock. Taking out a half-creation artifact to find a subordinate and 2 big goblin. In the entire Yuan Tiangong, only Su Fang could do such a thing. Xuanxin was sent to the guardian of Mount Exalted Celestial Mountain. There is still no news. Senior Sister Xu Wanjun is still trapped in the descending Celestial Palace. I haven't contacted her for a long time. Su Fang took out the Hunyuan sacred mirror and sent his yang energy and consciousness into it. However, after a long time, there was still no response from Shu Wanjun. You gave senior sister a great opportunity. She will not be able to digest it in a short time. She should be cultivating now. The divine prison of law at the periphery of the descending celestial palace is already so dangerous that I almost lost my life. The descending celestial palace is 10 times more dangerous than the divine prison of law. Although I have reached the 8th transformation, I am not confident that I can enter the descending celestial palace. It would be better if I could become a peerless master god. The experience in the divine prison of law made Su Fang realize how terrifying the Mount Exalted Celestial Mountain was. At the same time, it made him realize how weak he was. Therefore, although the trip to the descending celestial palace was imperative, he had to be fully prepared. If he was trapped in the prison suppressing codex again, he would not be as lucky as before. After putting away the Hunyuan sacred mirror, Su Fang returned to the Hall of Spring and Autumn. He went to the depths of the Hall of Spring and Autumn and continued to cultivate. In addition to stabilizing his 9th heavenly stage Tao integration, he mainly cultivated the 9 Yang 9 transformations and broke through the 73rd Yang meridian. He also continued to cultivate various cultivation techniques and abhijnas. There were also some Dharma treasures that needed to be integrated. The God-slaying saber, the prison-suppressing codex, the heavenly supervisor token, and especially the Hunyuan sacred mirror. After forming the 72nd Yang meridian and reaching the 8th transformation, Su Fang could further control the Hunyuan sacred mirror and some of the supreme abhijnas in the mysterious space of the ancient mirror. The gigantified body of the diamond, Herculean palm, an indestructible golden body came from the Hunyuan sacred mirror. Su Fang had persisted in cultivating from the small world to the myriad world. Until now, it was still an unparalleled abhijnas in the myriad worlds. It was clear how amazing the abhijnas in the Hunyuan sacred mirror were. In addition, his natal Dharma treasure, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda, also needed to be continuously watered with spirit liquid refined from various materials to improve the quality of the Dharma treasure. Cultivation knew no time. Su Fang was in the depths of the formation space of the Hall of Spring and Autumn. The river of time flowed and 10,000 years had passed without him realizing it. QL11 on this day, a violent aura suddenly surged from the depths of Su Fang's body. When he took a closer look, Su Fang couldn't help but be surprised and delighted. The 73rd Yang meridian is about to be successfully formed. The spiritual items of the Alpha Hall are truly extraordinary. I can cultivate a Yang meridian so quickly. The first Yang meridian of the 9th transformation is about to be born. My strength will increase greatly once again. My cultivation speed will also undergo a great transformation. 10,000 years and countless spiritual items seemed difficult to form a Yang meridian. However, for Su Fang, who had reached the 8th transformation, forming a Yang meridian was incomparably difficult. To form a Yang meridian in 10,000 years, Su Fang felt that it was fast enough. Su Fang began to activate the 9 Yang 9 transformations with all his strength. He used all the power of the 8th transformation Yang meridian to attack the Yang meridian outside. Boom, 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 boom. Like a tsunami, the Tao Palace of heaven and earth burned and trembled. The Yang energy passed through the world tree, causing Su Fang's yin-yang world power to continuously increase. At the same time, Su Fang began to activate the Origin Sacred Mirror. He absorbed the cold yin energy from within and fused it with the fierce yang energy, making the yang energy more perfect and profound. Qi. After countless attacks, a flame swept through the first yang meridian and rushed to the 73rd meridian. The 9 yang divine fire burning in this meridian was immediately extinguished. This meridian also quickly turned into a jade-like yang meridian. This newly formed yang meridian automatically fused with the 72nd yang meridian of the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, forming the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth with 73 yang meridians. Another yang meridian has been born. My wanton plundering was not in vain. I didn't get the good name, Su Wang, in vain, Su Fang chuckled. He was extremely happy. He sensed. Su Fang discovered that the 9 yang divine fire in the yang meridian had turned from grayish-white to light red. It felt somewhat similar to the 9 yang true fire released by the origin sacred mirror. The 9 yang true fire was the fire released by the origin sacred mirror. No other fire could be compared to it. It was terrifying and overbearing. Chapter 23:56. Afterwards, Su Fang devoured spiritual items that contained pure yang essence to replenish the yang qi he had used up to form the 73rd yang meridian. After reaching the 8th transformation, forming a yang meridian was much more difficult than before. The consumption of yang qi after forming a yang meridian was extremely shocking. I've successfully condensed another yang meridian. I'm getting closer and closer to achieving the 9 transformations of the 9 suns. Su Fang was filled with anticipation about how powerful he would become when he condensed all 81 yang meridian and reached the 9th transformation. He would be able to control the origin sacred mirror completely. Apart from forming a yang meridian, Su Fang's world of yin and yang gradually rose from the normal state of the 9th heavenly layer to the peak. This was mainly the result of the accumulation of countless resources. Moreover, they were not regular resources either. They were all high-grade pills and spiritual items that were extremely useful to the cultivation of overgods. Regular resources were useless to Su Fang now. There were also many benefits. In the past few years, Su Fang had constantly fused with the Heaven Supervising Badge and the Prison Suppression Codex. He could now use over half of the power of the 2 divine artifacts. Although the 2 divine artifacts had been heavily damaged after being corrupted and only had a tenth of their original power remaining, Su Fang could only use half of their power now. They were still extremely shocking. Su Fang estimated that he could easily suppress upper-rank lords just by activating these 2 heavenly law divine weapons. Coupled with his other divine abilities, he could even suppress peak lord. After fusing with the origin sacred mirror over the past few years, controlling it clearly became much easier. It was similar to when he controlled a god artifact in the great world. Although he still could not control it as freely as before, it was not as mysterious and vast as before. Even without Shu Wanjin working with him right now, whether it was the yin-yang transformation or the transformation of 4 symbols, the power that the origin sacred mirror could erupt with was extremely shocking. Su Fang estimated that he could even easily kill peak overgods if he used the 2 seals. However, there was a limit. The amount of yang qi consumed to use the origin sacred mirror was still extremely shocking. He could only use it once at most, so he could only save his trump card for last. In the space inside the mirror, Su Fang also made an unexpected discovery. One of the rare superpowers was similar to the giant body of the Vajra. It also required a perfect physical body. However, the difference was that this superpowers required yang qi and extreme cold qi. At the same time, it had to be combined with the yin-yang transformation. This peerless great divine ability was called the Divine Annihilation Fist. Different from the Herculean divine palm, the Fist of Annihilation didn't rely on brute force. Instead, it relied on the concept of the yin-yang transformation and was executed through the body of a perfect perfection saint. The power contained within the Fist of Annihilation contained the terrifying power of destroying matter and divine abilities, as well as the power to reverse one's sciention state. In terms of power, the apocalyptic fist was definitely not any weaker than the Herculean palm. Furthermore, it was combined with the concept of the yin-yang transformation. The amount of yang energy consumed was also much less than the Herculean palm, and it could be used for a longer period of time. In addition, He also obtained a great divine ability from the space inside the mirror. It was called the Great Reincarnation Art. This mystique required the origin sacred mirror and the concept of the four divisions transformation. Its ability was somewhat similar to the underworld reincarnation sword, which was to counter the enemy's attack through reincarnation. However, the origin sacred mirror's supreme divine ability was far from what the reincarnation sword could compare to. The ability of the four divisions transformation was to reconstruct, from matter to superpowers. It could even replicate life. The great reincarnation art was actually to replicate the enemy's superpowers and spells with the help of the four divisions transformation and the origin sacred mirror. Its power was naturally not as great as the four divisions seal, but its consumption was not great. With Su Fang's vast energy, it was almost negligible. With these two abilities, I possess the strength to take on overgods in an open battle. It won't be like before, where I basically lost the ability to fight as soon as I used trump cards like the yin-yang transformation and the transformation of the four symbols. At the end of the day, whether it is the giant body of the Vajra, the yin-yang transformation, or the four divisions transformation, they all originated from the nine suns transformation. From this, it can be seen how astonishing the nine suns transformation is. As expected of a technique personally created by the Genesis Heavenly Lord, it surpasses all other technique. The more Su Fang understood the nine suns transformation, the more shocked he was. There was also something that Su Fang had been worried about. QL11. Although there was a huge bounty mission, there was still no news from Qinyu, Bai Ling, and Luo. Xu Wanjin was still cultivating. Clearly, she had reached a critical juncture. Su Fang had tried to contact her many times through the origin sacred mirror, but to no avail. About 300 years passed. The yang energy in Su Fang's body had been depleted, and he had recovered to his peak state. Once again, time waited for no man, and he continued to cultivate. Time flew by. 1,000 years had passed in the outside world, but Su Fang had spent an astonishing 100,000 years in the Hall of Spring and Autumn. Ever since he stepped onto the path of cultivation, this was the first time he had spent such a long time in seclusion. On this day, Su Fang flew out of the Sanctum of Sages and arrived at the main hall. He sat cross-legged for about 100 years before the backlash from the passage of time slowly dissipated. This was the drawback of cultivating for a long time in the passage of time. Cultivating in the Hall of Spring and Autumn could save a lot of time, but the difference in time compared to the outside world would cause an astonishing backlash. Ordinary gods would not be able to withstand it. After cultivating for such a long time, I've finally reached the pinnacle of the ninth heaven of the Tao integration stage. However, it's so difficult to advance to the Master God level. Su Fang could not help but shake his head and sigh. He now had almost inexhaustible cultivation resources, and he did not lack time. Moreover, he cultivated the supreme heavenly Tao. However, after 100,000 years, he still could not advance to the Master God level. He felt like he was separated by a layer of paper. He could break through it with a poke, but he still could not break through this bottleneck. Every time I try to break through to the next realm, it becomes much more difficult. Obviously, it's because the Tao I cultivate is different from others. Su Fang thought for a moment and transmitted his thoughts to the void. Lord Emperor Unidao, Su Fang has something to ask of you. Emperor Unidao, Emperor Sangqiu, and Emperor Fan Di. These three supreme emperors had left their primordial spirits hidden in the void. Now that Su Fang was in danger, they would immediately rush over. Less than 10 breaths after Su Fang transmitted his thoughts, a divine light flashed out of thin air and quickly condensed into the form of Emperor Unidao. Thank you, Lord Emperor, for saving the realm Lord of Frost Shua. Su Fang respectfully cupped his fist. It turned out that while Su Fang was cultivating in seclusion, Emperor Unidao had already restored the realm Lord of Frost Shua's divine palace. For a supreme emperor, this was not difficult. It's a small matter, not worth mentioning. Emperor Unidao waved his hand and said, "Speak, what do you want from me this time?" Su Fang slowly explained the problem he had encountered in his cultivation to Emperor Unidao. As expected of a supreme emperor, he immediately saw through Su Fang's problem. He chuckled and said, "Actually, what's troubling you is not some bottleneck, but your lack of accumulation." Su Fang said in surprise, "Lack of accumulation? I've been cultivating in seclusion for 100,000 years in the hall of spring and autumn of the Saint Prince's Hall, and I've had an endless supply of all kinds of spiritual items. How could it be lack of accumulation?" Emperor Unidao was speechless and smiled bitterly. "Do you know how long it took me to become a master god from the time I became a cultivator? More than 5 epochs." Su Fangdao was shocked. 1 epoch was 2 billion years. 5 epochs, how long was that? You think my cultivation talent is poor, don't you? Su Fang hurriedly shook his head. A cultivator who could become a supreme emperor was definitely a peerless genius that was hard to come by even in 10 epochs. Moreover, it required unparalleled luck and hard work. Otherwise, it would be impossible to reach such a peak. Only now did he understand how difficult it was to become a master god. Only Dao Emperor continued, "If it's possible to become a master god or emperor just by relying on resources and cultivation techniques, then wouldn't there be master gods and emperors everywhere among the powerful forces and ancient god clans? Whether it's resources, cultivation techniques, or talent, although they are indispensable, they are not everything. Peerless master gods and supreme emperors are not things that can be piled up with resources. They are things that can be cultivated step by step. What you lack now is accumulation and accumulation. However, you don't have much time left. It's very difficult to become a master god in 100,000 years. It's very difficult. It's almost impossible." Emperor Unidao shook his head repeatedly. Su Fang cupped his fists and bowed. "Please advise me, Supreme Emperor." Emperor Unidao pondered for a while and said, "There are many other ways for a cultivator to improve their cultivation besides accumulation and accumulation. With your current situation, it's obviously impossible to build a cart behind closed doors. What you cultivate is the supreme heavenly Tao. You can only explore it on your own. Therefore, it's also impossible to ask experts to give you pointers, teach you, or cleanse your marrow. Elixirs, spiritual items, divine artifacts, and other supplementary items are obviously not suitable for you. You've plundered the divine pivot hall clean. Even I am not as rich as you. TSK. I can't help but admire the name Su Huang." At this point, Emperor Unidao chuckled. Su Fang smiled bitterly and touched the tip of his nose. "The best way is to experience life and death and break through your limits in the midst of life and death. However, the safety of all the worlds is at stake now. How can I let you risk your life?" Emperor Unidao shook his head repeatedly. Su Fang pondered for a long time. His eyes were filled with determination. It seems that this is the only way. He was able to achieve what he had today because he had a brave heart. It was precisely in the midst of life and death dangers that he obtained opportunities and sharpened his Tao heart. He overcame all the difficulties and obstacles and surpassed his peak time and time again. Emperor Unidao revealed a look of approval. The reason why Diyuan is not as good as you is because he lacks such life and death experiences. Therefore, he went to the battlefield of the Two Realms River. If he can survive there, his future achievements may not be inferior to yours. The battlefield of the Two Realms River? Su Fang was stunned. What is that place? Chapter 2357. It turned out, the Hunyuan heaven was almost breached by the resurrected powerhouses, and the Ji people's ancestor was possessed by a demon powerhouse. This caused a stir in the Hunyuan heaven and the Yuan Tiangong. After Di Yuan failed to enter the exalted celestial mountain, Everyone thought that the myriad worlds would not be able to stop the catastrophe. Even the supreme existences of the imperial people were disheartened and had the intention to let the myriad worlds fend for themselves. Su Fang once again brought hope to the myriad worlds. In addition, the heavenly Tao order was rapidly returning to normal, so everyone cheered up again. The Yuan Tiangong realized that the Hunyuan heaven alone was far from enough. They needed more starfields and god realms as the periphery to resist the resurrected powerhouses, the demon race, and the evil path. As a result, the Yuan Tiangong dispatched more than 20 supreme sovereigns, and even the supreme existences of the imperial people personally took action. Not only did they sweep away all the resurrected powerhouses outside the Hunyuan heaven, but they also killed nearly 10,000 resurrected powerhouses, demon powerhouses, and countless other powerhouses in the thousands of starfields near the Hunyuan heaven. The morale of the righteous path cultivators was greatly boosted, especially those isolated god realms trapped in the myriad world's major starfields. They were originally in despair and had the intention to live one day at a time. At this time, their fighting spirit and hope were rekindled. Under the organization of the Yuan Tiangong, the cultivators of the god realm rescued and subdued more than half of the starfield. Although they could not eliminate all the resurrected powerhouses, the chaotic state of the past was quickly restored to normal. However, the resurrected powerhouses, as well as the demon race and evil existence that walked out of the dark world, not only were there a large number of them, but their strength was also incomparably astonishing. Although they were not at the level of destroying the myriad worlds, they had reached the level of being equal to the cultivators of the god realm. In particular, what surprised and shocked the cultivators of the god realm was that the resurrected powerhouses were no longer as scattered as before. Instead, they had a tight and strict force. Coupled with the demon race and other evil existences, the Yuan Tiangong, after a fierce counterattack, gradually confronted the resurrected powerhouses, the demon race, and other forces. The guardian of the exalted celestial mountain personally took action. With a supreme ability, he changed the nature of the world and created a natural moat in the myriad worlds, blocking the resurrected powerhouses, the demon race, and other evil forces outside the natural moat. This natural moat was the River of Two Realms. The side of the Two-World River that was close to Yuan Tiangong was controlled by the righteous cultivators, while the other side of the river had completely fallen into enemy hands. So in just a short 1,000 years, the myriad worlds have changed so much. Su Fang was shocked after hearing Emperor Venerable's explanation. At this time, in addition to the cultivators of the righteous Tao, there are also 4 other powerful forces: the resurrected experts, the devil race, the demon race, and the dark forces from the dark world. Although the resurrected experts, the devil clan, the demon clan, and the dark faction are also enemies of the righteous faction, they are not allies. On the other side of the two-world rivers, they are also fighting each other endlessly. Although the two-world river has divided the universe into two, it doesn't mean that everything is fine. If we don't completely wipe out the evil forces, the universe will fall into their hands sooner or later. Therefore, the Yuan Tiangong has offered great rewards to encourage cultivators to go to the River of Two-World River. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses are also using the River of Two-World River as a training ground. The resurrected experts and other evil forces are also unwilling to only occupy half of the universe, so they are constantly infiltrating the River of Two-World River. Therefore, the broken god realm and material ruins in the River of Two-World River have become the battlefield for the two sides to fight. Therefore, the most dangerous place in the universe isn't the danger zone, or the wasteland, but the River of Two-World River. No matter how powerful a cultivator is, their individual strength is insignificant in the River of Two-World River. It is completely a meat grinder that strangles cultivators and resurrects experts. Emperor Venerable continued to speak tirelessly. Su Fang paused for a moment, then stared at Emperor Venerable. Emperor Venerable, do you mean that I should go to the river of Two-World River to train and find an opportunity to break through to the Lord God realm? If you want to break through, the river of Two-World River is of course the best place. Emperor Venerable nodded. Moreover, if you kill the resurrected experts in the river of Two-World River, not only will you receive a generous reward, you will also receive an invisible reward, and that is merit. Merit! The world is changing, and the heavenly Tao is in danger of being destroyed. Killing the resurrected experts is protecting the heavenly Tao, so you will receive the protection of the heavenly Tao and be bestowed with luck. This is merit. Su Fang immediately understood. The so-called luck was the affinity and protection of the heavenly Tao for cultivators. The resurrected experts were an anomaly that went against and destroyed the heavenly Tao. If cultivators killed the resurrected experts, they would naturally receive the protection of the heavenly Tao and receive luck, which was the merit that Emperor Venerable spoke of. Su Fang already knew this when he was in the resting land of the gods in the blue domed star field. Emperor Venerable continued. The more luck you have, the more chances you have to break through. In addition, the Yuan Tiangong is a supreme existence of the imperial people after all. It is a small universe created from the world, so it is not suitable for the supreme heavenly Tao that you cultivate. Su Fang deeply agreed with Emperor Venerable's words. However, Emperor Venerable then changed the topic. However, your current status is special. If something happens to you in the river of Two-World River, the world will change, and everything will lose its meaning. You have to think carefully about what to do. I will think carefully. Thank you for your reminder, Venerable. As Su Fang nodded, Emperor Venerable's figure slowly disappeared into nothingness. After Emperor Venerable left, Su Fang fell into deep thought. Holy Son Su Fang, there is news about the matter you asked me to investigate. Song Yanhai's nascent soul transmitted, interrupting Su Fang's thoughts. He immediately became spirited. There is news about Qingyu, Sister Bai, and the others? Song Yanhai's nascent soul cupped his fists at Su Fang. Not only your two monster friends and Fan Ming, but there is also news about the Shura Divine Clan that you asked me to investigate. It turned out that Su Fang had sent out the guards of the Sanctum of Sages to the Yuan Tiangong at the same time to issue a mission. As expected, when there is a great reward, there will be brave men. He had obtained useful information. Just as the venerable masters were killing the resurrected experts outside the blood wall of the Hunyuan heaven, many over-god masters also joined the battle. One of the over-god masters had encountered an expert from the Shura Divine Clan when he was chasing after the resurrected experts. Among the Shura Divine Clan experts, there were two powerful big goblin masters and a domain lord master. They were exactly the people that Su Fang was looking for. Qingyu, Sister Bai, and the others actually joined forces with the Shura Divine Clan experts? Su Fang was not surprised. What happened after that? According to the Overgod Master, there was not only a powerful expert among the Shura Divine Clan experts, but there was also an evil and incomparably powerful monkey demon. In the end, the Overgod Master used a life-saving method to escape. As for what happened after that, no one knows. After that, the Hunyuan heaven fought back against the resurrected experts and other evil forces, driving countless evil forces experts out of the Two-World River. In the battlefield of the Two-World River, many people also fought with the Shura Divine Clan experts. Perhaps your big goblin friends and the Shura Divine Clan experts retreated to the other side of the Two-World River. Song Yanhai took out a jade slip and flew it to Su Fang. This is the jade slip condensed by the Overgod Master. Take a look and see if this is the person you are looking for. Su Fang infused his magic power into the jade slip. The jade slip quickly melted and transformed into lifelike figures. Qingyu, Bai Ling, Fan Ming, Luo, and the monkey demon were among them. Finally, I have news of Qingyu, Sister Bai, and Luo. I didn't expect the immortal blood spirit I created, Luo, and the others to be together. Su Fang's heart instantly calmed down. With Luo and the others' strength, under normal circumstances, venerable sovereigns would not attack them. If they encountered an overgod master, even if they were no match for him, they could still escape with ease. It's highly likely that Luo, Qingyu, and Sister Bai have retreated to the other side of the Two-World River. I have to go to the Two-World River no matter what. Su Fang had already made up his mind. Whether it was for a breakthrough or for Luo, Qingyu, and Bai Ling, he had to go to the Two-World River. After making up his mind, Su Fang immediately transmitted his thoughts to his friends, family, and subordinates who were cultivating in the various sub-halls of the Sanctum of Sages. I have decided to go to the Two-World River. Other than the Tao-fusing cultivators and the Big Goblin, everyone else will stay in the Sanctum of Sages to cultivate. What kind of place is the Two-World River? Everyone else was cultivating in the Sanctum of Sages, so they had no idea what was happening outside. Su Fang briefly explained the situation. He did not tell them the real danger of the Two-World River. He only said that he was going out to train and look for Qingyu and Bai Ling. Next, Su Fang made arrangements. Su Fang's friends, family, and subordinates who were cultivating in the Sanctum of Sages, as well as the alchemists and artifact masters, were all left in the Sanctum of Sages. Su Fang also created a clone and stayed in the Sanctum of Sages. Nearly 4,000 Tao-fusing cultivators, Big Goblin, and most of them were cultivators. Su Fang took them all into the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. Of course, Su Fang had to take his second primordial spirit, Gui Gui, Dragon Bird, and use clone with him. In addition, the purpose of this trip to the Two-World River was to make a breakthrough. Naturally, Su Fang had to take the 100 million people living in the Two-World River with him. Then, Su Fang transmitted his thoughts to God Monarch Unidao and God Monarch Sanchio, asking them to take care of everyone in the Sanctum of Sages. Finally, there was one last thing that Su Fang was worried about. Before he left, he had to solve it. Lord Brahma Monarch. Su Fang transmitted his thoughts to the void, and soon, God Monarch Sanskrit appeared in the Sanctum of Sages. What's the matter? Brahma Monarch felt a headache coming on. How could he feel comfortable being ordered around like a subordinate? Su Fang clasped his fists and said, I'll have to trouble Lord Brahma Monarch to make a trip to the Great Worlds and bring the faction I've established in the Great Worlds, Square Heaven Monarch, to the Myriad Worlds. In the past, Su Fang did not have the strength to move the entire Square Heaven Monarch to the Myriad World. Now that there was a ready-made errand runner, and it was a God Monarch, how could Su Fang let go of such an opportunity? Chapter 23:58. Asking a Supreme Sovereign, a top existence in the universe, to run errands in the Great World was like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. QL11 However, in the current situation, Su Fang had to be cautious. Su Fang said, I'm going to be in seclusion for a long time. At least for the next 30,000 years, I won't bother the Supreme Sovereign. Moreover, this matter was as easy as lifting a finger for His Excellency the Emperor, so why not? Besides, I'll send my subordinates to follow you to the Great World. You don't have to worry about ordinary things. Humph, in that case, I'll have to go to the Great World. As soon as he heard that Su Fang wouldn't bother him anymore, the Supreme Sovereign of Sanskrit immediately agreed. Then, with a flash of divine light, he disappeared into nothingness. Su Fang was still a little worried. He sent Hua Dongjun, an expert he had subdued in the space of the prison suppression codex. This person not only had the strength of a domain master, but he was also very shrewd. Su Fang was very relieved to send him to the Great World with the Supreme Sovereign of Sanskrit. After everything had been arranged properly, Yi Zichen decided to leave. Su Fang took out a rune talisman and sent a message to the Supreme Sovereign of Imperial People. My lord, I've decided to go to the Two Realms River to train and find an opportunity to break through to the King God realm. I'm here to bid farewell to you. Only half an hour later, the supreme sovereign of imperial people's consciousness descended on the Saint Temple and condensed into a majestic figure. The Two Realms River is extremely dangerous. Although you have the strength to fight against supreme sovereigns, you still have the risk of dying. Are you sure you want to go to the Two Realms River? Su Fang said decisively. Yes, I've made up my mind. In that case, I won't stop you. It'll be difficult for you to break through if you stay in Yuan Tiangong. It's wise to go to the Two Realms River to train. The supreme sovereign of imperial people nodded and said. Then, he said, you're related to the safety of the universe. Therefore, in the Two Realms River, the first thing you need to do is to stay alive. Then, find an opportunity to break through. I'll keep the news of you going to the Two Realms River a secret. You have to know that you're the resurrected powerhouse and the most wanted person of the demons. If they know you're going to the Two Realms River, they'll definitely send supreme sovereigns to kill you. I have already prepared for this. In addition, since you've just escaped from the Tao River and you're concerned about the safety of your friends and family, I'll let you vent as much as you want and won't fuss about it with you. However, there is one thing you must understand. If you fail to enter the exalted celestial mountain after 100,000 years, even if I don't kill you, no one in the myriad of worlds will be able to survive. Thank you for your magnanimity, sir. Su Fang showed a grateful expression. In reality, he was laughing coldly in his heart. Wait until I enter the celestial worthy mountain. Even if I succeed, won't you still kill me when I'm done with it? He then gazed at the supreme existence of the imperial people. As long as you can guarantee the safety of my family and friends, I'll do my best. Even if I have to die, I'll enter the celestial worthy mountain and find a way to stop the world's metamorphosis. This is a small matter. I can guarantee it. The supreme being of the imperial people nodded. He was a supreme existence in the myriad of worlds. In his eyes, Su Fang's family and friends were just a bunch of ants. How could he deliberately target them? He only needed a single thought to do this, so naturally, he agreed to it without hesitation. Then, he raised his hand and shot out a Xian Guang, which landed on the rune talisman in Su Fang's hand. I left a thought in the rune talisman. If you encounter a critical moment, crush the rune talisman, and I'll show up to save you immediately. Unexpectedly, Su Fang rolled out a wave of divine power and crushed the rune talisman into pieces. I went to the Two Realms River to train myself this time to find an opportunity to break through in the life and death situations. If I have something to rely on, what's the point of the so-called training? The supreme being of the imperial people revealed a look of approval in his eyes. He nodded and said, with such a Tao heart and will, you will definitely be able to break through smoothly on this trip to the Two Realms River. About 50 years later, outside the Hunyuan Heaven Realm, there was a huge floating object. Su Fang, who had changed his appearance, sat cross-legged in front of a huge stargate with over 300 cultivators. At this moment, Su Fang had transformed into a young man in his mid-20s. He had a handsome face and an extraordinary temperament. His aura was only at the fourth heaven of the Supreme God realm. At this moment, even a peak Supreme God expert would find it difficult to see his true appearance and strength. This was because he had used the aura of the fruit of sin to fuse with one of the three human skins. Apart from the overbearing blood Venerable and his son, as well as the three Yuan Tiangong geniuses, Di Yuan, Qian Gang, and Chu Bingyan, who had seen this appearance, the others had all died in the Divine Law prison. At that time, no one knew that he was Su Fang in disguise, so Su Fang's true identity would not be exposed. At this moment, Su Fang was a resurrected expert and someone that the demon race wanted to kill. He had to be careful. Even the news of him going to the River of Two Realms was strictly sealed. At this moment, his identity was that of a wandering cultivator from a small realm, the turbid wave divine world, that had been destroyed by the resurrected expert. He was preparing to go to the River of Two Realms through the Stargate outside the Hunyuan Heaven Realm. The 300 or so deities around him were similar in status to Su Fang. They were all wandering cultivators from various divine realms. They were tempted by the rich rewards of being in the Yuan Tiangong, and were preparing to go to the River of Two Realms to earn merits. Although the cultivation of these deities was not very high, most of them were in the Supreme God realm and a few were in the Tao integration realm. However, each of them had a murderous aura and their strength was extraordinary. It was obvious that they had experienced many storms in the past. Compared to the other cultivators, Su Fang was extraordinarily handsome. It was easy for people to think that he was a talented person from a major force in the myriad realms. He attracted the attention of many people. "My name is Su Zhongliang. May I know your name?" A young man walked over and cupped his fists at Su Fang. This person's cultivation was extraordinary. He had reached the height of a seventh heaven divine venerable. Moreover, he was very tactful. During the period of waiting to enter the realm-crossing Stargate, he had befriended almost everyone. He had a good relationship with everyone and was very popular. Su Fang calmly replied, "Turbid wave cloud." Su Zhongliang smiled and said, "This trip to the River of Two Realms is extremely dangerous. When the time comes, why don't we join forces and enter the River of Two Realms together? There's strength in numbers and we can split the merit points equally. What do you think?" "I'm sorry. I'm used to being free and undisciplined. I'm not used to joining forces with others. Many of us have already agreed to team up with you. There are even Tao integration experts in our group. Why don't you think about it?" "I'm not interested." You're just a fourth heaven supreme god. You're just going to die in the River of Two Realms. What's there to be arrogant about?" After being rejected by Su Fang, Su Zhongliang's sharp gaze swept across Su Fang before he left angrily. Su Fang was speechless and smiled bitterly. He did not say anything else. After waiting for 10 days, the Stargate still did not show any signs of opening. Many cultivators began to get anxious. Everyone. An old man with a goatee appeared in front of everyone. Everyone's heart skipped a beat when they sensed the aura of this person. This old man with a goatee was a territorial lord who was at the peak of the Tao integration realm. He was only one step away from the Overgod realm. "I'm Territorial Lord Wuzhen. I'm responsible for escorting Yuan Tiangong geniuses to the River of Two Realms. There will be a group of Yuan Tiangong geniuses going to the River of Two Realms through the Stargate. Therefore, the Stargate has been requisitioned and can only be reopened 3 years later. You have 2 choices. You can go with these Yuan Tiangong geniuses, but you have to bear the responsibility of protecting these geniuses. The other choice is to wait for the next group of people to go to the River of Two Realms 3 years later." The old man with a goatee said majestically. Hearing that there would be Yuan Tiangong geniuses going to the River of Two Realms, everyone was in awe. As long as they entered the Yuan Tiangong, not only would they have a superior status, but they would also have a bright future. Sooner or later, they would become peerless experts. How could these itinerant cultivators compare to them? "Sir, why do Yuan Tiangong geniuses need our protection? Is there any danger in going to the River of Two Realms?" Su Fang suddenly asked. "From the Hunyuan Heaven Realm to the River of Two Realms, we have to go through more than a dozen stargates and pass through some extremely dangerous places. That's not the biggest danger. It's that there are resurrected masters and demons attacking the realm crossing Starry Gate. Not long ago, a group of cultivators heading to the Two-World River were killed by the void turbulence because the realm-crossing Starry Gate was destroyed during the teleportation. Everyone was shocked by Territorial Lord Wuzhen's explanation. Only then did they realize that not only was the River of Two Realms dangerous, but the journey to the River of Two Realms was also not that safe. What an honor it is to travel with the peerless Yuan Tiangong geniuses. I agree. Su Zhongliang was the first to agree loudly. Many itinerant cultivators agreed. It would be much safer to travel with the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. Besides, it was also an opportunity. If they could build a relationship with the Yuan Tiangong geniuses, it would be a great fortune. Su Fang also nodded in agreement. Anyway, they were going to the River of Two Realms, so it didn't matter who he went with. As for the dangers on the way, Su Fang didn't care at all. After the venerable sovereign's purge, it was almost impossible for the resurrected experts or demons to threaten him on the side of the River of Two Realms close to the Yuan Tiangong. They waited for about a month. A group of Yuan Tiangong geniuses slowly flew over. Su Fang touched the tip of his nose and showed a wry smile when his full circle power swept over these geniuses. Turned out that these so-called Yuan Tiangong geniuses were all geniuses in the Yellow Realm, and most of them were women. There were more than 50 of them, and they chattered all the way. Fragrance lingered in the air. They were not going to the River of Two Realms to fight. They were going on a sightseeing tour. Among the Yuan Tiangong geniuses there were not many women. Most of them were in the Yellow Realm, the lowest level, and most of them were from big forces. Obviously, these geniuses in the Yellow Realm were going to the River of Two Realms to get some experience before returning to the Yuan Tiangong. Let's go. Territorial Lord Wuzhen waved his hand and led the Yuan Tiangong disciples into the Stargate, followed by the other itinerant cultivators. Chapter 2359. Su Fang and the others who were heading to the River of Two Realms passed through the Starry Gate. After passing through the Starry Gate 9 times, they were not far from the River of Two Realms. They would arrive after 3 more Starry Gates. When they walked out of the realm crossing Starry Gate, they saw a chaotic and vast space torn apart, blocking their way. This chaotic area was left behind by a battle between a venerable sovereign from Yuan Tiangong and a resurrected expert who was comparable to a venerable sovereign 1,000 years ago. The space was broken, and there were turbulent flows everywhere. The natural energy of heaven and earth was chaotic, and the laws collapsed, showing a chaotic and strange vision of heaven and earth. Since the realm-crossing Starry Gate could not directly pass through this chaotic area, they had to use magic treasures to cross it. Region Master Wuzhen took out a treasure ship magic treasure. After activating it, it turned into a treasure ship that was hundreds of feet long. It carefully carried the crowd and flew toward the chaotic area. It took a year to pass through this chaotic area. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses were arranged to stay in rooms in the cabin, while Su Fang and the other rogue cultivators could only stay on the deck. Su Fang sat cross-legged on the deck and closed his eyes to cultivate. The other rogue cultivators began to chat and befriend each other. Some of the bolder ones went to curry favor with the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. The young man named Su Zhongliang, who boasted that his appearance and cultivation were extraordinary, tried his best to win the favor of the Yuan Tiangong woman. Unexpectedly, he really hit the jackpot. A Yuan Tiangong woman actually took a fancy to him, which made him very proud and arrogant in front of many rogue cultivators for a while. Soon, Su Zhongliang became the woman's subject. They stuck together in the cabin and did not show up for several months. Some rogue cultivators were envious. Su Zhongliang had climbed up the social ladder and had a meteoric rise from then on. Unexpectedly, half a year later, Su Zhongliang returned to the deck again. At this time, Su Zhongliang had completely changed. In just half a year, he had aged 20 years. His face was haggard, skinny, and his breath was weak. He looked like he had lost a lot of blood and qi. When everyone saw this, they were all shocked and stunned. Su Fang was also very surprised. Su Fang was stunned and speechless after he used his great perfection ability to sense the treasured ship. Why was that? Those Yuan Tiangong geniuses on the treasured ship were also discussing this matter. From their conversation, Su Fang knew the whole story. It turned out that the woman who had taken a fancy to Su Zhongliang had an extraordinary identity. She was from the ancient divine clan of the myriad of worlds in the universe, the Yin clan. Su Fang was naturally familiar with the Yin clan. Before entering the Yuan Tiangong, he had a fierce conflict with the Yin clan's peerless genius, Yin Buji. Later on, it was the Yin clan's higher-ups who came forward to apologize to Su Fang. Only then was the enmity resolved. The woman's name was Yin Tianjiao. She was a genius of the Yin clan's main bloodline. She cultivated the Yin-Yang Great Tao that was passed down in the Yin clan. Her cultivation level was also extraordinary. She was a first-stage Tao integration stage expert. This woman was somewhat similar to Yin Buji. Even though she was born with a heavenly beauty and was incomparably beautiful, she was a Yin-Yang person. A Yin-Yang person was a monster who was both male and female. However, unlike Yin Buji, who was neither male nor female, this Yin Tianjiao was both male and female. Moreover, she was both male and female. Su Zhongliang thought that he had won the Yin clan's favor. Little did he know that he had been shackled in a room by Yin Tianjiao and had endless intercourse to devour his vitality and yang qi. Not only that, Yin Tianjiao was also a pervert. She tortured Su Zhongliang. Not only did Su Zhongliang's cultivation level and vitality get sucked away, he was also ravaged by Yin Tianjiao. After half a year, it was already good enough that he was still alive. Su Fang learned about Yin Tianjiao's fetish from the discussions of those Yuan Tiangong geniuses. He couldn't help but sigh. How could the Yin clan produce such a freak? That Su Zhongliang was really too unlucky. He took the initiative to deliver himself to the Yin clan and was tortured half to death. Yun Zhuolang. Su Zhongliang suddenly pointed at Su Fang and shouted, "Miss Yin wants you to go to her." Su Fang's eyebrows furrowed. He still sat there with his eyes closed, as if he didn't hear anything. Su Zhongliang said fiercely, "Don't pretend to be deaf and dumb. Your fortune is here. Miss Yin wants you to go to her." Su Zhongliang was also a cold and ruthless person. When he was down on his luck, he wanted to drag others down with him. Among the wandering cultivators, Su Fang was the most handsome. In addition, Su Fang had rejected Su Zhongliang before. Therefore, he chose Su Fang first. Su Fang slowly opened his eyes. "I can't enjoy the fortune that young Master Su enjoys. I'll leave it to young Master Su." Su Zhongliang sneered. "You dare to go against Miss Yin? Just wait for your misfortune." After saying that, he directly transmitted his voice to Yin Tianjiao in the cabin. A moment later, a woman in a red robe came to the deck. This woman also looked very beautiful. Many wandering cultivators couldn't help but swallow their saliva at the sight of her. But when they saw Su Zhongliang's appearance, it was as if they had been splashed with a bucket of ice water. They completely dispelled their crooked thoughts. QL 11-inch not bad. Seeing Su Fang, Yin Tianjiao's phoenix eyes lit up like a hungry wolf seeing a pig or sheep. This kid is going to be unlucky. Many wandering cultivators felt sorry for Su Fang. "You're called Yun Zhuolang? Come with me. Not only will I reward you with pills, but I'll also let you experience the bliss of the world," Yin Tianjiao said to Su Fang with a smile. His voice was soft and full of charm. "Not interested." Su Fang closed his eyes again and said indifferently. Su Zhongliang snorted and fanned the flames. "Miss Yin, this person is a madman. If we don't teach him a lesson, he'll really think he's a big shot. This is what I like." Yin Tianjiao licked her red lips. Her eyes were burning hot as she looked at Su Fang. "You're not interested, but I'm interested in you." As soon as she finished speaking, two Xian Guang flashed from Yin Buji's eyes. A yin-yang divine aura enveloped Su Fang. Damn Yin clan monster! Su Fang was extremely depressed and furious in his heart. However, he couldn't expose his true identity in front of everyone. He could only use his fourth heaven divine venerable cultivation to barely break Yin Tianjiao's shackles. Then, Su Fang pretended to be injured. He rolled on the deck a few times and leaned against the side of the treasure ship. Just as Yin Tianjiao was about to make a move to shackle Su Fang, a woman's voice came from the cabin. "In Tianjiao, these are all cultivators who went to the Two-World River to work for the human race. Don't go too far." In Tianjiao seemed to be a little afraid of this woman and immediately restrained herself. "Yun Zhuolong, I'll wait for you below." In Tianjiao looked at Su Fang and smiled charmingly. Then, she waved at Su Fang. A shocking suction force erupted from her palm and pulled Su Fang to her side. Then, with lightning speed, she opened her mouth and spat out a pink cloud directly onto Su Fang's face. Su Fang breathed in a wisp of pink mist. Instantly, he felt the pure yang fire in his body begin to surge. A strong desire rose in his heart. The pink mist that Yin Tianjiao spat out was actually a type of sex medicine. "Yin Tianjiao, how dare you be so unrestrained?" A figure broke through the air and appeared on the deck. It was a white-clothed woman with fair skin. She looked very gentle and quiet. Her cultivation level was 2 stages higher than Yin Tianjiao's, reaching the 3rd heavenly stage of Tao integration. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses all improved at an astonishing speed. Over the years, many Yellow Realm geniuses had reached Tao integration. This white-clothed woman's cultivation level was at the 3rd heavenly stage of Tao integration. Clearly, she was one of the best Yellow Realm geniuses. "Muqing, don't think that you can order me around just because you're having an affair with Chu Bingyan. No one can take the man I like away from me." Yin Tianjiao snorted coldly. She didn't take the white-clothed woman seriously. Su Fang was stunned. He didn't expect this woman to be Chu Bingyan's confidant. He used the power of the 9 suns to refine the medicinal power in his body while glancing at the white-clothed woman a few more times. "Yin Tianjiao, don't be so presumptuous." Another genius arrived on the deck. This was a young man who had reached the peak of the 5th heavenly stage of Tao integration. He seemed to be a genius from the Yuan Tiangong realm and was an admirer of Muqing. "Qi Zhao." Yin Tianjiao wasn't afraid of Muqing, but he was very wary of this young man. His divine light flickered and he took a few steps back. "Yun Zhuolong, you've inhaled my yin-yang aphrodisiac powder. Only I can help you get rid of it. If you don't come to my room in 3 days, you'll die of defecation," Yin Tianjiao said proudly to Su Fang. Then, with a flash of divine light, his body turned into nothingness and disappeared into the space inside the treasure ship. "Are you okay?" Muqing looked at Su Fang and rolled out a xian guang, which floated in front of Su Fang. "This is a snow marrow pill. Although it can't save you, it can delay it a little. As long as you hold on for a while longer, I'll ask Chu Bingyan to find a way to get rid of the poison when we reach the Two-World River." "Thank you, Miss Muqing." Su Fang reluctantly cupped his fists and swallowed the pill. "Miss Muqing, let's go. Why waste a snow marrow pill for an ant?" The young man said to Muqing and left the deck with Muqing. "Yun Zhuolong, I advise you to listen to Miss Yin. I guarantee you'll feel like dying." "Ha ha ha!" Su Zhongliang laughed proudly. Many itinerant cultivators looked at Su Fang and shook their heads and sighed. Their hearts were full of sympathy. Some people also advised Su Fang to grit his teeth and endure the humiliation. At least he wouldn't lose his life. From the beginning to the end, Domain Master Wuzhen and the other experts who were escorting the Yuan Tiangong realm genius didn't show up. It was as if they didn't know what was going on. Everyone thought Su Fang wouldn't last for 3 days. Who knew that after 10 days, Su Fang still didn't show any signs of the poison taking effect? They were all very surprised. However, looking at how hard Su Fang was holding on, it was obvious that he wasn't feeling good either. About half a year later, Su Fang was safe and sound. Everyone couldn't help but look at him in a new light. Some people said that he was lucky because the snow marrow pill Muqing gave him work. Yin Tianjiao didn't show up either. It was as if he had forgotten about Su Fang. The treasure ship flew out of the chaotic area. Everyone flew down from the ship and Domain Master Wuzhen put away his magic treasure. "You're actually fine?" Chapter 2360. It's all thanks to your snow marrow pill, Muqing. Otherwise, how could a mere fourth heaven-godly venerable realm itinerant cultivator neutralize the yin-yang aphrodisiac powder? The young man named Qi Zhao was not surprised at all. He immediately scoffed at Su Fang. Su Fang cupped his fists at Mu Qing gratefully. "Thank you for your pill. I'll definitely repay your kindness in the future." Yin Tianjiao sneered. "Any man I fancy will end up in my bed sooner or later. You may have escaped this time, but you won't be able to escape the next time." Su Fang was trembling and looked like he was scared out of his wits. Mu Qing frowned slightly. "Before we reach the Two Realms River, you'll stay by my side for now." Su Fang could not help but be overjoyed. "Thank you." Many itinerant cultivators looked at Su Fang enviously, especially Su Zhongliang. His eyes were filled with jealousy and resentment. Qi Zhao raised his eyebrows. "Sister Qing, I'm afraid that's a little inappropriate. He's just an ant-like itinerant cultivator." Mu Qing said calmly, "It's best if you don't worry about my affairs." Qi Zhao smiled sheepishly and glanced at Su Fang. There was a bone-chilling coldness in his deep eyes. Along the way, there were material ruins of various sizes. There were also terrifying auras that would make even over-god powerhouses tremble in fear. The laws of nature were chaotic here. These were the remnants of the battle between venerable sovereigns. It would be difficult for them to recover even after an era. The group did not dare to fly too fast. They could only fly slowly in the air. Su Fang followed closely behind Mu Qing, as if he was afraid that Yin Tianjiao would attack him again. They passed by a ruin that spanned 1,000 miles. Su Fang's divine light changed slightly. Under his great perfection sensing ability, he discovered an ethereal aura hidden in the chaotic void at the end of the material world. Moreover, the aura contained demonic qi. It turned out to be a demonic Tao powerhouse. Moreover, it was a peerless powerhouse who was comparable to a lower-rank lord. None of the region Lord Wuzhen and the dozen or so other Yuan Tiangong powerhouses flying in front noticed the great danger waiting for them. Su Fang followed the others as they flew forward, thinking about how to solve the problem ahead. Mu Qing's body suddenly emitted a crisp sound of a bell. After being stunned for a moment, she immediately cried out in alarm, "There are experts hiding in front. Everyone, be careful." He didn't expect this woman's senses to be so amazing. She was even more powerful than Region Master Wuzhen and had discovered the demon race's experts in advance. However, it was obvious that she had relied on her unique divine artifact and not some special sensing ability. Mu Qing's extremely abrupt shout caused everyone to be shocked and stunned. Soon after, they all became nervous. "I didn't expect that someone would actually be able to see through my tracks." A figure instantly appeared in front of everyone. Everyone was quite surprised. When they looked over, they saw that it was actually a figure with demonic qi. It turned out to be a demonic expert. Sensing this person's cultivation base, everyone panicked. This was bad. They had encountered a demonic cultivator before even reaching the Two Realms River. Moreover, this demonic cultivator was a peerless over-god expert who had surpassed the region lord level. There are so many women. If I were to suppress all of you and give you to Lord Devil God, what kind of amazing benefits would I obtain? The numerous female cultivators of Primordius Heavenly Palace all paled. The demon race usually captured human women for only one purpose, and that was to use them as embryos to breed the next generation of the demon race. Therefore, once a female cultivator encountered a demon race cultivator, they would rather burn their own god residence than be captured. The male cultivators didn't look any better. When they fell into the hands of the demon race, their fate was usually to be used as a tool for cultivation. Their blood, qi, and primordial spirits would be devoured. Their fate was also extremely miserable. Boom! A gust of demonic qi erupted from the demonic cultivator. In an instant, the demonic qi covered the sky and the sun. The entire material world, including everything on it, was instantly engulfed in a demonic world filled with demonic qi. Oh no! Region Master Wuzhen, who was leading the group, turned pale with fright. The others, whether they were Yuan Tiangong geniuses or the many wandering cultivators, all fell into despair. Even a Dao integration pinnacle stage cultivator would be as weak as a chicken in the face of the lowest level of a master god, let alone a demon race cultivator. Region Master Wuzhen activated a divine weapon that looked like a palace lantern. It released rays of red xianguang, which formed an extremely powerful defensive barrier that kept the demonic qi outside. This divine weapon was a half-creation divine weapon, and Region Master Wuzhen had activated 70 to 80% of its power. It was enough to withstand the attacks of the demon race cultivator for a while. Only then did everyone heave a sigh of relief. Everyone, don't take a single step out of the barrier. You'll die if you do. Region Master Wuzhen shouted, reminding everyone. Boom, 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 boom. The demonic qi outside raged and crashed against the barrier, causing it to shake violently. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths again. Region Master Wuzhen said anxiously, that demon race cultivator is extremely powerful. Even with a half-creation divine weapon, I can only hold on for 3 days at most. Hurry up and ask for help from the Yuan Tiangong. It's too late. Let's ask for help from the Two Worlds River. Mu Qing, Yin Tianjiao, Qi Zhao, and the other Yuan Tiangong prodigies all took out rune talismans or divine weapons used to transmit messages and asked for help from the Two Worlds River. This place was not too far away from the Two Worlds River. If they came quickly, they should be able to make it in 3 days. Yin Tianjiao's rune talisman was the first to respond. She shouted proudly, "My clan's peerless prodigy, Yin Buji, will be here with the other Yin clan cultivators. As long as we can hold on for a few days, we'll be saved." Mu Qing and Qi Zhao were next. Mu Qing asked for help from the Yuan Tiangong Heavenly Realm Dao Sect's prodigy, Chu Bingyan. Qi Zhao also asked for help from an extraordinary person. His cousin was also from the Yuan Tiangong Heavenly Realm Dao Sect. His name was Qi Mian. Hearing that so many powerful cultivators were coming, everyone calmed down. This is strange. Su Fang used the power of the perfected stage and looked outside the barrier. His eyes were filled with doubt. Why was this happening? The defensive barrier released by Region Lord Wuzhen's divine weapon was very powerful. However, it was difficult to see what was happening outside from the inside of the barrier. Su Fang's current cultivation level was at the peak of the 9th heaven of the Dao integration stage. In addition to his perfected stage physical body, his sensing ability had even surpassed that of an upper-rank lord. Therefore, he could clearly sense everything outside the barrier. The demon cultivator seemed cruel and evil, but he did not put much effort into attacking the barrier. At most, he only used 20 to 30% of his power. It was really strange. Just as Su Fang was sensing the commotion outside, he suddenly sensed someone coming behind him. Su Zhongliang? What is he trying to do? Su Fang could not help but be startled when he sensed the aura of the person behind him. Suddenly Su Zhongliang unleashed a surge of primordial spirit power that swept toward Su Fang's divine aperture like a flash flood. With the current primordial spirit power of Su Fang's original body and second primordial spirit, only venerable emperors could pose a threat to him. He could completely crush anyone below venerable emperors. Why would he care about the primordial spirit attack of a mere godly venerable cultivator like Su Zhongliang? This Su Zhongliang seeks revenge for the smallest grievance. He really deserves to die. Just as he was about to counterattack, Su Fang's heart skipped a beat. He activated his primordial spirit defense and allowed Su Zhongliang's attack to hit his divine aperture. Then, he pretended as if his primordial spirit had been severely injured. He staggered and fell out of the defensive barrier. Everyone inside the barrier was extremely nervous, and no one noticed Su Zhongliang's actions. I was humiliated by the witch of the Yin clan and am living a life worse than death. Yet you're safe and sound. How am I supposed to face you? Get out of here obediently and become that demon cultivator's food. Su Zhongliang was very pleased with his successful sneak attack. Whoosh! Su Fang rolled out of the barrier and immediately flew toward the outside of the physical world. However, the entire physical world was currently enveloped by the demon cultivator's demonic aura and had become a part of his world. Su Fang's cultivation level was only at the fourth heaven of the godly venerable realm. Where could he escape to? After flying for less than 100 miles in the overflowing demonic aura, the demonic aura in front of him rolled and condensed into the demon cultivator's figure. Boy, you might be able to live for a few more days if you stayed inside the barrier. At that time, you could even be buried with those Yuan Tiangong experts and peerless geniuses. Now that you've left the barrier, you can only let me have a taste of you. Unfortunately, you're just an ant in the godly venerable realm. You're not enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. That demon cultivator was very arrogant. He didn't take Su Fang seriously at all. In fact, in the eyes of a peerless sovereign god, a godly venerable realm cultivator who could be revered in a divine world was indeed no different from an ant. Su Fang was so scared that his face turned pale. He said while trembling, "Since you know there will be Yuan Tiangong experts and peerless geniuses coming, why aren't you running for your life?" That demon cultivator snorted disdainfully. "This time, I'm going to kill those Yuan Tiangong experts and peerless geniuses. As for you guys, you're just a bunch of pitiful bait." Su Fang finally understood. It turned out that the demon cultivator had deliberately trapped these Yuan Tiangong Yellow Realm geniuses here. Then, he would lure the true experts and geniuses here and then suppress them in one fell swoop. Su Fang continued to trick the demon cultivator. "You're just a sovereign god. In Yuan Tiangong, there are many peerless geniuses who can kill you. Aren't you afraid of being suppressed by them instead?" Unexpectedly, the demon cultivator was already impatient. He reached out and grabbed at the air. Demonic aura quickly condensed into a huge palm print and firmly grabbed Su Fang. An astonishing amount of demonic poison seeped into Su Fang's divine body. Suddenly an astonishing aura gushed out of Su Fang's divine body. The palm print that was shackling him instantly shattered. Then, Su Fang took a step forward and charged in front of the demon cultivator. Then, he directly punched out. This punch looked like a mortal martial artist's attack. However, the aura that was released contained a terrifying concept of destruction. It actually caused the world that the demon cultivator had condensed from his divine might to collapse layer by layer. It was as if he could shatter heaven and earth with a single punch. Divine Destruction Fist. What Su Fang was currently using was the supreme divine ability that he had obtained from the Origin Sacred Mirror, the Divine Destruction Fist. This punch was executed with the concept of yin-yang transformation, a perfected physical body, and the power of 9 yang. It possessed the terrifying power of destroying matter, divine abilities, and reverting to one's innate state. The demon cultivator's divine aura changed instantly. Even with his strength as a lesser sovereign god, he felt his heart palpitate at the power of this punch. He even sensed death. An astonishing demonic aura surged from the surface of his body. It quickly condensed into a dark armor defense. A violent and evil aura suddenly erupted and charged toward Su Fang. Boom! The demon cultivator's demonic aura was shattered one after another. Then, his body, along with his demonic armor, instantly shattered and turned into demonic chi. Then, it was destroyed again and finally disappeared from heaven and earth. Chapter 2361. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses inside the barrier, as well as many rogue cultivators, soon realized that something was wrong outside. The terrifying demonic aura and the demonic aura that had shrouded heaven and earth had disappeared. The pressure on the barrier released by Domain Master Wuzhen's palace lantern was also gone. "What's going on outside?" Could it be that the demonic cultivator knew that it would be difficult to break the barrier and that the Yuan Tiangong geniuses were coming, so he left? Be careful, demonic cultivators are extremely cunning. This must be a plot by that demonic cultivator. Everyone was surprised and delighted, but they did not dare to leave the barrier. They waited for a day. There was still no movement outside, so Domain Master Wuzhen sent out a rogue cultivator to investigate. Soon, the rogue cultivator sent a message through the rune talisman. The demonic cultivator was no longer outside the barrier. Could he really have left? Domain Master Wuzhen was puzzled. After waiting for another 2 days, Domain Master Wuzhen could no longer maintain the barrier released by the divine artifact, so he had to put away the palace lantern. Seeing that the demonic cultivator had indeed disappeared, everyone felt as if they had escaped death. Mu Qing took out a rui-shaped divine artifact. After activating it, she used the divine power of the divine artifact to sense the surrounding heaven and earth. She was surprised. It turned out that her divine artifact was very special. After activating it, it could increase her sensing ability to an extremely shocking level, surpassing the limit of the Tao integration realm and reaching the level of a Lord God. She did not find any trace of the demonic cultivator, but she was shocked to find that there was still a very weak but extremely shocking aura of destruction left in heaven and earth, as well as the aura of the demonic cultivator. That demonic cultivator did not leave, but was killed by a powerful cultivator. This discovery made Mu Qing's head explode. She was shocked. Domain Master Wuzhen suddenly shouted coldly, "Who is it? Come out." Then he reached out and grabbed a mountain 100 miles away with his divine power. Then, he grabbed a figure out of the mountain and dropped it in front of him. Cloudy Wave? When did this person get outside the barrier? He was not killed by the demonic cultivator. This is unbelievable. When everyone saw the man's face, they couldn't help but be shocked. On the other hand, Su Zhongliang's divine light changed in an instant. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and then there was a wave of panic. Mu Qing carefully sized up Su Fang, and a puzzled look appeared in her eyes. When she encountered the Devil Dao cultivator, Su Fang had always been by her side. Now that he had appeared outside, and was even able to escape from the hands of the evil Devil Dao cultivator, Mu Qing became suspicious. This person must be a devil spy. It must be him who attracted the devil expert. Otherwise, how could he not be killed by the devil experts outside? Su Zhongliang suddenly yelled out. This man was indeed despicable. He was afraid that Su Fang would expose him, hence he struck first to gain the initiative by framing Su Fang. Su Fang had already made everyone suspicious. After Su Zhongliang's words, they really began to doubt him. Who cares if he's a demon spy or not? Let's kill him first, Yin Tianjiao said coldly. Not only was this woman a monster, she was also so ruthless. Mu Qing said, this person definitely isn't a demon spy. Qi Zhao harumphed. Sister Qing, you're not familiar with him. It's best that you don't speak carelessly, lest you get into trouble. Let's shackle him first. We'll interrogate him properly when we reach the Two-Realm River. Wuzhen activated his divine might and was about to shackle Su Fang. Su Fang could not defend himself. At this point, he could no longer hide his strength. His original plan to sneak into the Two-Realm River with a low profile seemed to have gone down the drain. Buzz buzz buzz, just as he was about to attack, a mysterious Tao rune from the heavenly secret life shrinking skill flashed from the depths of Su Fang's divine aperture. Su Fang immediately dismissed the idea of attacking. It turned out that a few acquaintances had arrived. They were Chu Bingyan, Yin Buji, Qi Mian, a heaven-rank dojo prodigy from Yuan Tiangong, and a peerless middle-rank lord-level powerhouse, QL 11-inch Mu Qing. Chu Bingyan's voice came from afar. Then, their figures flew over through the air. In this chaotic area, even peerless lords would not dare to use their teleportation abilities by merging with the heavenly Tao, let alone Tao integration cultivators. Therefore, they could only fly. "You're here so soon?" Domain Lord Wuzhen's eyes flickered with surprise, and the divine aura enveloping Su Fong immediately dissipated. However, Su Fong was still swept up and sent flying. His body was shattered, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Of course, this appearance was Su Fong's disguise. With his current cultivation base, even upper-rank lords would find it difficult to harm his perfected physical body, let alone Wuzhen, who was at the peak of Dao integration. Fortunately, we're not too late. Chu Bingyan and the others breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Mu Qing and the others were unharmed. After asking about Su Fong's situation, Yin Buji immediately said, "Just kill him. What's the point of talking so much?" Mu Qing said, "Bingyan, this person is definitely not a demon tribe spy." Although she could not be sure, she still felt that Su Fong was very different from the rest. That was why she spoke up to save him. Qi Zhao snorted and said, "Chu Bingyan, Mu Qing seems to think highly of this itinerant cultivator called Yun Zhuolong." Chu Bingyan snorted coldly at first. However, when he heard Su Fong's name, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. "You're called Yun Zhuolong?" After carefully sizing up Su Fong, Chu Bingyan exclaimed, "You're Mr. Zhuolong." Chu Bingyan immediately recognized that this Yun Zhuolong in front of him was Mr. Zhuolong, who had appeared in the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law. In the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law, Chu Bingyan had personally witnessed Mr. Zhuolong's shocking performance on the path of Heaven's Law. Not only did he surpass him, he even surpassed Di Yuan. Later, outside the main hall of the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law, Mr. Zhuolong was nowhere to be seen. Chu Bingyan originally thought that he had already fallen. He did not expect to meet him here. How unlucky! Chu Bingyan recognized me before I even reached the River of Two Realms. Fortunately, my identity as Mr. Zhuolong was not exposed in the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law. Otherwise, the news of me going to the River of Two Realms to train would definitely be leaked. Su Fong was also very helpless. There were many other divine weapons and divine abilities that could change one's appearance, but it was very difficult to fool the eyes of a true expert. Only these 3 human skins were left over after the blood and chi of cultivators had been devoured by the death punishment wood. Su Fong combined them with the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. Even a venerable emperor powerhouse would find it difficult to see through them. Therefore, Su Fong continued to use them. He had a total of 3 human skins. As for the other 2, he had displayed astonishing strength in the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law, and his true identity had already been exposed. Thus, only Mr. Zhuolong's identity could be used. He did not expect to meet Chu Bingyan so soon. "Greetings, Your Highness Chu Bingyan." Su Fong cupped his fists respectfully and bowed to Chu Bingyan. "How did you escape from the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law?" Black flames surged in Chu Bingyan's eyes as he stared at Su Fong. This person is actually a powerhouse who escaped from the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law. Everyone was shocked. Even the middle-rank Lord-level Yuan Tiangong, who had rushed over, looked at Su Fong in utter shock. Su Zhongliang was trembling, and his face was pale with fright. The news of countless powerhouses dying in the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law had long spread throughout the universe. Even several peerless Lord-level powerhouses, and peak Lord-level powerhouses at that, had fallen. Those who had managed to escape were only Su Fong, Chu Bingyan, Qian Gang, and Di Yuan. This Yun Zhuolong was actually a powerhouse who had escaped from the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law. One could only imagine how astonishing his strength was. Su Fong smiled wryly. "It was pure luck that I was able to escape from the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law. After ascending the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law, I encountered Luo Xingtian in the side hall outside the main hall and was injured by his prison-suppressing pen. I had no choice but to hide. Then, I took advantage of the moment when all of you entered the main hall to immediately leave the Divine Prison of Heaven's Law. That was how I managed to escape by sheer luck." Chu Bingyan was half convinced and half doubtful. He carefully sensed Su Fang but could not find any clues. Only then did everyone realize that this Yun Zhuolang was merely a lucky fellow and could not possibly be a peerless powerhouse. Chu Bingyan, however, sized up Su Fang from time to time. Others might not know, but Chu Bingyan had personally witnessed Su Fang's might on the divine prison of heaven's law. Although it might have been due to the help of a special divine weapon or the great path he cultivated, it was still enough to shock Chu Bingyan to this day. We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's leave quickly. The Yuan Tiangong powerhouse who had come with Chu Bingyan and the others said, as for this person, he's acting suspiciously. Let's shackle him first and investigate him carefully when we reach the Two Realms River. This person was an old man whose cultivation base had reached the height of a middle-rank lord level. His status among the Yuan Tiangong was not low, and no one disobeyed his orders. Zone Master Wuzhen immediately cast a seal, casting the shackle's power into Su Fang's body. Su Fang did not resist and allowed Zone Master Wuzhen to do as he pleased. Everyone quickly flew toward the object where the realm-crossing stargate was. Su Fang followed the crowd and was closely watched by a dozen or so itinerant cultivators assigned by Zone Master Wuzhen. Su Zhongliang was also one of the cultivators watching over Su Fang. He glanced at Su Fang from time to time with undisguised murderous intent in his eyes. In less than half a day, the object where the realm-crossing stargate was located appeared within sight. Su Fang cast his great perfection ability and swept the object with his divine light. He saw that there were hundreds of cultivators guarding the realm-crossing stargate. Then, Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. Su Zhongliang saw Su Fang's expression and sneered. If you want to escape, you'd better do it now. Otherwise, when we reach the Two Realms River and your identity as a demon spy is exposed, you'll be dead for sure. Su Fang smiled sheepishly and said nothing. The Yuan Tiangong old man suddenly stopped and shouted in a deep voice, "Something's not right. The cultivators in front of the realm-crossing stargate are not the ones we saw when we first came." As soon as he finished speaking, from the surrounding void, a vast demonic voice spread out. I never imagined that I would be able to capture two heavenly realm Tao right geniuses of primordious heavenly palace, as well as a middle sovereign, as well as so many women. This can be considered a great harvest. Jijage, demonic energy surged out of the void and took control of nature within 100,000 miles, turning it into an evil demon realm. We've been ambushed by the demons. Chapter 2362. On the human cultivator's side, there was a middle-rank lord and many unparalleled geniuses. Chu Bingyan and Qi Mian were currently powerful enough to fight a lower-rank lord. Although they were panicked when they were suddenly ambushed by a devil tribe powerhouse, they did not despair. However, as the evil laughter continued to ring out from the void, it attacked everyone's primordial spirits, causing them to fly out of their divine apertures uncontrollably. Only then did they realize that the situation was much more serious than they had imagined. The demon race powerhouse that was hidden in the shadows released a demonic sound that contained an astonishing primordial spirit divine might. Even the middle sovereign of primordious heavenly palace had no choice but to summon the power of his primordial spirit to defend himself, much less the others. Poof! A godly venerable realm itinerant cultivator was the first to lose control of his primordial spirit. It flew out of his divine aperture and was instantly shattered by the demonic sound. It turned into green smoke and was devoured by the demonic Qi world. One after another, more than 10 itinerant cultivators followed closely behind. Their primordial spirits broke free of their bodies and were devoured by the demonic Qi. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses appeared to be faring slightly better. However, they were also struggling to hold on and could not retaliate. It's a devil tribe powerhouse who's skilled in primordial spirit power. Fortunately, I brought my second primordial spirit with me. Otherwise, Even my true body's primordial spirit would find it difficult to resist. Among the many cultivators, only Su Fong was unscathed. He had merged his second primordial spirit with his true body and used his primordial spirit divine power to easily suppress and defend his primordial spirit. You're just a mere devil tribe powerhouse. How dare you act so presumptuously? The middle-rank lord from Yuan Tiangong let out a thunderous roar. His primordial spirit divine power erupted and suppressed the demonic sound that was sweeping toward them. Only then did the crowd feel the primordial spirit pressure lessen significantly. At this moment, something unexpected happened. Not far behind the Yuan Tiangong old man, territorial Lord Wuzhen suddenly attacked. He opened his mouth and spat out a beam of blood-red light that flashed like a bolt of lightning. With a hiss, the blood-red light instantly shot through the Yuan Tiangong old man's back. Even the middle-rank lord's powerful defense could not stop the blood-red light from burrowing into his heart. Domain Lord Wuzhen, how dare you sneak attack me? Are you betraying the human race? The Yuan Tiangong old man was shocked and angry. He turned around and looked at Wuzhen domain leader. Hee, I was originally a member of the devil race, so how could I betray you? In order to lure you big fishes, I have spent a lot of effort and almost failed. Territory Master Wuzhen grinned fiendishly. His god body changed dramatically. The skin on his face and body started to tear, and the muscles on his face started to wriggle crazily. The muscles all over his body started to tear and expand, and fangs grew out of his mouth. He looked like a humanoid vampire bat. In the blink of an eye, Domain Lord Wuzhen transformed into a hideous middle-aged man with bat-like ears, a face, and a body that didn't belong to a human. He wasn't a cultivator of the devil Dao, but a true devil. All the cultivators turned pale with fright. They didn't expect Domain Lord Wuzhen to be a devil race powerhouse. Moreover, he was no ordinary devil race powerhouse. He was a peerless devil god comparable to a lower-rank lord. Su Fong was also very surprised. What kind of demonic technique did this devil god use? Even with my great perfection ability, I can't sense his devil chi? When Su Fong killed the devil Dao powerhouse earlier, he had guessed that there was a devil race spy among the cultivators. He didn't expect the devil race spy to be Domain Lord Wuzhen. What surprised Su Fong even more was that Domain Lord Wuzhen was actually a devil god in disguise. He had fooled everyone. Even Su Fong had never heard of such a strange and peculiar demonic technique. With Su Fong's great perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique, he could more or less sense a devil race cultivator's aura even if he possessed a cultivator's body. Moreover, this devil race cultivator often came and went in and out of Yuan Tiangong. The fact that he hadn't been seen through by the Yuan Tiangong powerhouses showed how powerful his devil art was. Su Fong also had a deeper understanding of the devil race. The devil race is indeed a powerful race that can compete with the human race. They have all kinds of evil and strange techniques and supernatural powers. He knew that he had to use part of his power this time. He secretly activated the power of the world of yin and yang to quickly refine the energy seed that Domain Lord Wuzhen had put into his body. The old man from Primordius Heavenly Palace displayed his invincible might and was about to rush towards Domain Master Wuzhen when he suddenly staggered. The blood-red light that had drilled into his heart had begun to crazily swallow up his life essence. All of you will become food for the devil race, Domain Lord Wuzhen smiled viciously. He rolled out a devil chi light and attacked the Yuan Tiangong elder. All rogue cultivators, protect the Yuan Tiangong geniuses and leave this place quickly. The Yuan Tiangong elder forcibly sealed his heart and started a fierce battle with Domain Lord Wuzhen. Yin Tianjiao shouted at the trembling rogue cultivators, "Everyone, come here and protect us as we leave." Although it was called protection, they were actually cannon fodder. The rogue cultivators weren't fools. The Yuan Tiangong geniuses' lives were precious, but their own lives were even more precious. No one paid attention to Yin Tianjiao. They all ran for their lives. The rogue cultivator's actions made Yin Tianjiao gnash her teeth in anger. Seeing that Su Zhongliang was about to escape, Yin Tianjiao activated a red Xian Guang. It turned into a rope and pulled the two to her side. Yin Tianjiao put away the divine artifact and shouted at the two, "Follow me. Once we leave this place, the Yin race won't mistreat you. If you don't, I'll suppress you right now." Su Zhongliang was scared out of his wits when he fell into the hands of the Yin race monster again. "Wouldn't it be a joke if I let a bunch of ants like you escape from me?" That terrifying demonic voice sounded again. Monstrous devil chi sealed the surrounding area. The terrifying essence spirit pressure swept over like a wave. At the same time, from the material world where the realm-crossing Stargate was, numerous demon gods charged over. Although these demon race experts were only as strong as Dao integration stage cultivators and outnumbered the rogue cultivators, they weren't affected by any restrictions or essence spirit pressure in the world where the demon race experts were hidden. They were like wolves in a flock of sheep. In just a dozen breaths, over 20 rogue cultivators were killed. Chu Bingyan, Qi Mian, and Yin Buji struggled to resist the essence spirit pressure while fighting against the demon race expert. They were barely holding on. Although the primordious heavenly palace powerhouse had forcefully sealed away his heart, his strength had also been suppressed. In addition, there was also the demon powerhouse hiding in the shadows. Most of the demonic sound and demonic energy attacks were aimed at him. At this time, he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. So many human women, and they're all peerless geniuses of the Yuan Tiangong. The demon race experts sneered and charged toward the Yuan Tiangong female cultivators. Among these Yuan Tiangong female cultivators, Mu Qing and Yin Tianjiao's appearances and auras were the most outstanding. Thus, they attracted special attention from the demon race experts. 2 of them were targeting Yin Tianjiao, while 3 were targeting Mu Qing. Yin Tianjiao's face turned pale with fright. She shouted coldly at Su Zhongliang, "Stop them." Su Zhongliang had no choice but to fly toward the 2 demon race experts. Unexpectedly, before he could get close, Su Zhongliang suddenly unleashed a burst of divine might that slammed into Su Fang. Su Fang seemed to be shackled and unable to move. She was swept toward the demon race expert. "Go to hell." Su Zhongliang sneered and retreated rapidly. However, in the next moment, Su Fang's out-of-control figure suddenly flashed and disappeared. She appeared beside Su Zhongliang. "Dao integration stage. You're a Dao integration stage expert. How can you break free from the shackles of Domain Lord Wuzhen?" Only Dao integration stage cultivators could merge their bodies with the heavenly Dao and borrow its power to travel through the void. Moreover, they were currently in a world formed by demon race experts. Su Fang was able to teleport. She was definitely not looking for a Dao integration stage cultivator. Moreover, Su Fang had been shackled by Domain Lord Wuzhen himself. How could Su Zhongliang not be surprised? Only now did Su Zhongliang realize how powerful this Yun Zhuolang, whom he had mocked and wanted to set up, was. This lowly one had eyes but failed to see. "Spare my life." Just as Su Zhongliang was begging for mercy, Su Fang sent out a burst of shackles into Su Zhongliang's body. Then, she disappeared from his side. QL11 The 2 demon race experts charged toward Su Zhongliang. One of them opened its mouth and spat out a burst of demon flame that enveloped Su Zhongliang. After a few miserable screams, Su Zhongliang was reduced to a pool of blood in the demon flame and was sucked into the demon race expert's mouth. He was hiding his strength. Yin Tianjiao was shocked to see this. However, she was not as surprised as Su Zhongliang because of her status and strength. She shouted at Su Fang, "Come and protect me. My race will give you supreme opportunities." "I can't enjoy the Yin race's opportunities. Miss Yin, you'd better pray for yourself," Su Fang smiled coldly. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Mu Qing. At this moment, 3 demon race experts, who were equivalent to mid-stage Dao integration stage experts, were about to shackle Mu Qing. Su Fang instantly appeared in front of one of the demon race experts and threw out a punch. The demon race was known for their powerful physical bodies. Seeing Su Fang fight with her physical body, one of the demon race experts couldn't help but laugh in disdain. Then, they charged toward Su Fang and attacked Su Fang with their claws. Boom! The power of the Fist of Annihilation exploded and destroyed the claws and the body of the demon race expert. They were reduced to nothingness by the power of the Fist of Annihilation. There's actually another expert hiding here. A Devil Clan expert activated a magic weapon. It was a devil tool that looked like a wheel. It swirled with a monstrous devil chi. Suddenly, it spun in a strange arc and arrived in front of Su Fang. Boom! 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 Su Fang threw out another punch and shattered the demon weapon into nothingness. Then, he took advantage of the momentum and killed the demon race expert with a punch. Seeing this, the other demon race expert turned pale with fright and used his movement skill to escape. The colossal fist of destruction could be said to be able to kill gods and devils that stood in its way. It was invincible. Seeing the awe-inspiring Su Fang, the eyes of Mu Qing, who had luckily escaped a calamity, were filled with shock and awe. It was not only because Su Fang had killed 2 Devil Clan experts, but also because Mu Qinglian recalled the aura of the Devil Clan expert who had been killed by Su Fang from the aura of Su Fang's apocalyptic immortal fist. It was the aura of the apocalyptic immortal fist that was unique to the apocalyptic immortal fist. Chapter 2363. Among the many geniuses in Yuan Tiangong, it was not as if there were no geniuses who could defeat lower-rank lords. Over the years, under the nurturing of the Yuan Tiangong, most heaven-rank dojo geniuses had the ability to contend with lower-rank lords. However, killing an overgod was a different matter altogether. At the level of a lord, one had already reached the pinnacle of cultivation and was practically immortal. Furthermore, which lord-level powerhouse did not possess astounding life-saving techniques? A middle-rank lord-level powerhouse could easily crush a lower-rank lord. However, it was almost impossible to kill the lower-rank lord unless an upper-rank lord intervened. Mu Qing was already certain that Su Fang must have killed the demon Dao powerhouse from before. This also meant that Su Fang had the ability of an upper-rank lord at the very least, or possessed some heaven-defying divine ability or Dharma treasure. Either way, it was enough to prove that Su Fang was a peerless powerhouse with powerful abilities. How could he be the weakling whom even Yin Tianjiao did not dare to resist? When Yin Tianjiao saw Su Fang's prowess, realization dawned on her instantly. Her face turned ghastly pale, and her mind went blank. While she was distracted, a demon tribe powerhouse activated a demonic light chain and bound her firmly. Then, she was forcefully dragged into the demonic weapon's internal space. When the demons captured human female cultivators, they usually used them as embryos to breed their offspring. Yin Tianjiao, a monster who was both male and female, had been captured by the demons. Who knew what kind of monster they would breed into? "My lord, please save Chu Bingyan." Mu Qing mustered up her courage and asked Su Fang for help. "This Chu Bingyan is a heaven-rank dojo genius in Yuan Tiangong, but I've saved him time and time again as if I'm his nanny." Su Fang sighed helplessly internally. He definitely had to save Chu Bingyan. Back in the prison suppression codex, his master had entrusted him to Su Fang. After that, he had burned himself to fight Jiang Taijie. There was no way Su Fang would sit back and watch no matter what. Boom! Boom! After Su Fang killed 3 devil experts in succession and helped Chu Bingyan out of the predicament, Su Fang turned around and attacked Wuzhen Domain Master. This young master Zhuolang really concealed his strength deeply, and he's displaying his true strength now. Who is he? Why was he unknown before? Chu Bingyan looked at Su Fang's back, and his heart was in turmoil. Faintly, Chu Bingyan matched the figure in front of him with the figure in his memory. He was immediately shocked. Impossible! This young Master Zhuolong is definitely not Su Fang. His strength is far inferior to Su Fang's. Besides, the Two Realms River is so dangerous. Su Fang is the only one who can enter the celestial worthy mountain and stop the abnormal change of heaven and earth. How could he be here? I didn't expect that I was actually mistaken. There's actually an expert hidden among these ants. Wuzhen Domain Master abandoned the middle-rank lord in Yuan Tiangong and roared angrily. A cloud of demonic flames swept toward Su Fang, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. The Devil Clan expert hidden in the dark let out terrifying demonic sounds that attacked the primordial spirit and wantonly attacked Su Fang's divine aperture. A mere lower-rank lord isn't worthy of me using the great samsara skill. The fist of destruction is enough to kill him. Su Fang charged into the cloud of demonic flames, and a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth spread out. The monstrous cloud of demonic flames also shattered layer by layer under the destructive power of the fist of destruction. Even the demonic chi world that the Devil Clan expert had unleashed showed signs of collapse under the terrifying power of the fist of destruction. As for the attack of the demonic sounds, Su Fang's second primordial spirit activated the Night Demon superpower and firmly defended his divine aperture. As a result, Su Fang's divine aperture was like an impenetrable canopy. The power of the demonic sound's primordial spirit could not shake it in the slightest. D*eminent, where did this expert come from? He actually caused this plan to fail. Wuzhen Domain Master saw that the situation was not good. Filled with hatred, demonic light surged out of his body, and his figure instantly turned into nothingness. He was about to escape. In a flash, the old man in Yuan Tiangong activated a flying sword, and a monstrous sword light enveloped Wuzhen Domain Master and the surrounding area. The demonic light surged and actually shattered the sword light. However, Wuzhen Domain Master was also successfully stopped. Kill. At this moment, the old man in Yuan Tiangong activated his flying sword again. A monstrous sword light enveloped heaven and earth, turning into a real world created by a fierce sword will. It forcibly seized and shattered the world created by the Devil Clan expert. A giant sword formed in the world and slashed toward Wuzhen Domain Master. Demon transformation. An evil and violent aura surged out of Wuzhen Domain Master's body. However, it was not demonic aura, but demonic aura. A Devil Clan expert could actually control demonic aura. It was truly unbelievable. In an instant, Wuzhen Domain Master's body also underwent a heaven-defying transformation. He turned from a ferocious and terrifying devil god into a terrifying demon god that was thousands of miles tall. It was a monster with a dragon head and a tortoise body. There was a towering mountain on the tortoise shell that released an astonishing defensive divine power. Chi. The giant sword shattered the mountain on the tortoise shell and landed on the tortoise shell. Unexpectedly, with a loud crack, the giant sword shattered layer by layer. However, only a crack appeared on the tortoise shell, and it instantly recovered to its original state. What kind of divine power is this? Even my most powerful attack can't do anything to it? The old man in Yuan Tiangong looked at the dragon-headed tortoise in horror. Due to his heavy injuries, the attack just now had exhausted all of his strength. His aura had become sluggish, and it was difficult for him to attack again. With my supreme divine power, no one can hurt me unless it's an upper chief god or a divine creation artifact. The tortoise raised its head, and there was disdain in its eyes. Watch how this young master breaks your tortoise shell. At this moment, Su Fang leaped across the sky and attacked with the full power of the fist of destruction. Boom! QL11 Su Fang's fist landed on the tortoise shell. This scene looked as laughable as an ant trying to shake a mountain. However, no one could laugh. Crack, crack, crack. The tortoise shell cracked layer by layer, and the terrifying destructive power made it difficult for the wounds to heal. In the end, the tortoise shell shattered into countless pieces. Wuzhen Domain Master screamed. His body, which had lost its tortoise shell, was a bloody mess. He quickly wriggled and transformed back into a human cultivator. However, his aura was sluggish, and he looked like he was seriously injured. He stared at Su Fang and asked, "Who are you?" "This young master comes from the Turbid Wave realm. My name is Young Master Turbid Wave," Su Fang said domineeringly. "Turbid Wave realm? No matter who you are, you'll die if you dare to make an enemy out of my clan." A mighty demonic sound came from the void again, and it transformed into countless blood-colored bats that could only be seen with the power of the primordial spirit. Each of them was 1,000 feet long and covered the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The bats circled Su Fang and emitted a hollow primordial spirit sound. They actually penetrated the defenses of the divine aperture and attacked Su Fang's primordial spirit. The power of the primordial spirit attack released by these strange bats was enough to kill a peak upper-rank sovereign. If it weren't for the fact that Su Fang's original body cultivated the Undying Soul Codex and had a strong primordial spirit and his second primordial spirit, the soundless primordial spirit sound waves released by the bats would have obliterated his primordial spirit. I can't underestimate any demon expert. Su Fang was extremely wary of the strength of the demon experts. He immediately merged his original body's primordial spirit with his second primordial spirit and executed Night Demon's supreme primordial spirit ability. A terrifying primordial spirit aura that could devour and fuse primordial spirits formed a hollow primordial spirit vortex around the divine aperture. Primordial spirit abilities were extremely rare in the first place. Furthermore, Su Fang had never exposed the fact that he possessed a powerful primordial spirit ability before, so he wasn't afraid of exposing his true identity. As the primordial spirit vortex spiraled and howled, it actually distorted and disintegrated the primordial spirit attacks of the blood-colored bats before swiftly devouring them. That wasn't all. Those blood-colored bats were originally the demon experts that had been hiding in the dark. They were transformed from the power of the primordial spirit. Under Su Fang's primordial spirit aura, they actually flew uncontrollably towards Su Fang, their figures rapidly becoming blurry. The blood-colored bats completely lost their ferocious and terrifying appearance from before. Instead, they were filled with terror as they struggled to escape into the void. However, under the devouring power of Su Fang's primordial spirit vortex, most of the blood-colored bats were still forcefully devoured. Less than a fifth of them managed to escape. Night Demon? I didn't expect you to be a human cultivator controlled by Night Demon. Night Demon is the natural enemy of the demon clan. I admit defeat this time. The demon expert that had been hiding in the dark let out a cry of surprise. Then, his voice gradually faded away, and then there was no more sound. It's really detestable. I can't use the identity of Mr. Turbid Wave anymore. I'm so unlucky. Why didn't I carefully deduce and choose an auspicious date before coming to the Two-World River this time? Su Fang's expression became very unsightly, and he was extremely depressed. Why was this so? Night Demon was a legendary existence. Very few ordinary cultivators knew of its existence. However, those ancient immortal clans and the superpowers with a long history naturally wouldn't forget that Night Demon had once controlled countless human cultivators and brought a great disaster to the world of cultivators. Now that the demon expert had revealed that he was possessed by Night Demon, how could those Yuan Tiangong experts not be wary of Su Fang? How could Su Fang not be depressed when he was already regarded as Night Demon before reaching the Two-World River? It would be a big problem to enter the Two-World River in the future. Sure enough, as Su Fang expected, as soon as the demon expert finished speaking, the surviving cultivators, including the middle-level overgod from Yuan Tiangong, as well as the Yuan Tiangong geniuses such as Chu Bingyan, Qi Mian, and Yin Buji, were all shocked and looked at Su Fang in horror. Qi Zhao, who had once mocked Su Fang, was so frightened that his face turned ashen. His whole body trembled, and he almost couldn't fly. Mu Qing and the other Yuan Tiangong female cultivators originally admired Su Fangda from the bottom of their hearts when they saw Su Fang's invincible might. But now they were all scared out of their wits. Su Fang's divine light swept over and saw that Domain Master Wuzhen had already disappeared without a trace. Many demon experts had also escaped. Domain Master Wuzhen, don't even think about escaping from me. Su Fang's divine body quickly turned into nothingness and blended into nature as he chased after Domain Master Wuzhen. Chapter 2364. After Su Fang left for a long time, the Yuan Tiangong geniuses finally returned to normal. They had just escaped death, and each of them was terrified. A chill ran down their spines. Night Demon has appeared again and possessed a human cultivator. We must inform the higher-ups of Yuan Tiangong about this, said the middle-rank lord of Yuan Tiangong in a deep voice. Mu Qing hesitated for a moment and said, "If Turbid Cloud was possessed by Night Demon, why did he kill the devil expert and save us?" Everyone found it unbelievable. Night Demon was not only the natural enemy of the devil race, but also the mortal enemy of human cultivators. It was extremely strange that Turbid Cloud, who was possessed by Night Demon, would save them. However, the old man of Yuan Tiangong still reported the matter to the higher-ups of Yuan Tiangong. The devil expert had infiltrated Yuan Tiangong and lured and killed the Yuan Tiangong geniuses. Coupled with Night Demon's appearance, it caused quite a commotion among the higher-ups of Yuan Tiangong. There was no lack of a thorough investigation within the Yuan Tiangong. The news of Night Demon's reappearance in the myriad worlds spread rapidly. About a month later, in a chaotic abyss not far from the River of Two Realms, a figure emerged from the undercurrent. It was Domain Lord Wuzhen, who had luckily escaped with his life. That damned Night Demon! How dare she make this plan fail on the verge of success? She will definitely be punished by the higher-ups of the devil race. But at least I'm still alive. Let me recover my strength first. Domain Lord Wuzhen's figure flashed and entered the depths of the undercurrent. He arrived at an independent space formed by the undercurrent of natural energy. He created a formation in the empty and cold space. Just as he sat down cross-legged, he suddenly sensed something. He looked over and saw that Turbid Cloud was not far away, looking at him with a sneer and mockery. His expression changed instantly, and his goatee trembled in fear. "How did you catch up to me?" Domain Lord Wuzhen exclaimed. "You're just a low-rank Lord God, and one that ascended not long ago. What's so difficult about finding you?" Not only did Su Fang have the heavenly secret life contraction technique that could sense fate, but he also had the heavenly supervisor token that could control the order of heavenly Tao. With the combination of the two, it was not difficult to track down Domain Lord Wuzhen. However, Su Fang naturally did not explain anything to Domain Lord Wuzhen. Instead, he said coldly, "Are you going to surrender obediently, or do you want me to take you down personally? How arrogant! You're merely at the peak of ninth heaven of Tao integration. How dare you threaten me, a lower-rank Lord-level powerhouse?" Wuzhen's throat's spine. Domain Lord Wuzhen could sense his strength. Domain Lord Wuzhen roared when he saw Su's words. To Wuzhen. 2. After Domain Master Wuzhen formed the hand seal, a thick demonic aura surged out from his body. His body started to transform rapidly, turning into a golden rock great demonic beast that was thousands of feet long. The outer realm's spacetime became chaotic as the golden wings flapped. It formed a storm that swept toward Su Fang. Domain Lord Wuzhen wanted to take advantage of the chaos to travel through the void. Su Fang smiled coldly. He flipped his hand and took out an incomplete book Dharma treasure. It was the prison suppressing codex. After it was activated, the prison-suppressing codex released a black Xian Guang. Wherever it went, the space storm stirred up by Domain Lord Wuzhen was instantly imprisoned. Under the supreme order of heavenly Tao, any natural power of heaven and earth would be shackled. The black Xian Guang ignored the space barrier and shrouded Domain Lord Wuzhen, who had already escaped from the independent space. What kind of shackling power is this? Order of heavenly Tao. It's the order of heavenly Tao. Under the prison-suppressing codex's divine power, Domain Lord Wuzhen could only feel shock and despair. He was quickly recalled into the independent space by the black Xian Guang. Looking at the incomplete black book, Domain Lord Wuzhen finally understood. The prison-suppressing codex. That's the prison-suppressing codex. You're not Child Zhuolong. You're Su Fang. You're right. It's a pity that you won't get any rewards. Su Fang showed a domineering smile. The black Xian Guang released by the prison-suppressing codex suddenly flourished and engulfed Domain Lord Wuzhen directly into the prison-suppressing codex. It turned into a picture and imprinted on the page. Su Fang put away the prison-suppressing codex. Then, he performed the mystery of heaven's divination and completely messed up the surrounding heaven's mystery. In this way, even if a venerable emperor came, he wouldn't be able to go back in time and speculate what had happened here. Due to his special identity, Su Fang had to be careful on this trip to the Two Realms River. If he was careless, he might attract the attention of a supreme existence among the resurrected masters. Moreover, the enemy he was facing now was the demon race. Su Fang quickly traveled through the undercurrent and left the independent space. Then, he released his divine power and merged with the heavenly way. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled thousands of miles. After several times, he came to a chaotic void. After entering the depths of the chaotic void, Su Fang activated the sky-concealing star flag to isolate the surrounding space. Only then did he strip off a yang spirit and enter the prison-suppressing codex. At this time, Su Fang was able to activate more than half of the prison-suppressing codex's power. The masters shackled in the prison-suppressing codex didn't need to use any shackling power, nor did he need to spend any effort to subdue them. With the help of the magic treasure, he could easily turn the shackled masters into obedient puppets. However, Su Fang only planned to use the prison-suppressing codex to suppress the real masters. After all, the prison-suppressing codex was severely damaged and could only seal a limited number of people. Moreover, the masters shackled in the prison-suppressing codex would have no room for improvement in the future. Su Fang got everything he wanted from Domain Lord Wuzhen without much effort. The reason he spent so much effort to hunt down Domain Lord Wuzhen was because of Domain Lord Wuzhen's miraculous divine ability. Su Fang's great interest was piqued by the fact that a cultivator could transform into a demon god and a big goblin at the same time. The result didn't disappoint Su Fang. It turned out that Domain Lord Wuzhen was really a human cultivator. Moreover, he was a cultivator with a perfect physical body. He wasn't a demon god or a big goblin. He used to be the domain lord of a place called Wuzhen Star Region. He had inadvertently obtained a supreme divine ability from ancient times. It was a divine ability that was performed with the physical body, just like the yellow spring blood sea. It was called the demon shape-shifting technique. The ancient expert who had created this divine body art was obviously a peerless genius. Humans were limited by nature. Their physical bodies were far inferior to those of the demon race and the big goblin. Even if they cultivated their perfect physical body, it would still be difficult for them to compete with the demon race and the big goblin. Therefore, the ancient master who created the demon shape-shifting technique took a different approach. He used the perfect physical body of a human to fuse with the blood of the demon race and the big goblin, as well as demon chi and demon chi, to change his body constitution. The conditions to cultivate this divine ability were very strict. First, one had to have a perfect physical body. Secondly, one had to be able to fuse with the power of the demon race and the big goblin. After mastering this divine ability, one would possess unimaginable physical strength. It would also be of great benefit to cultivators in improving their cultivation. After cultivating the demon shape-shifting technique, one could transform into either the demon race or the big goblin. Not only would one's appearance change, but even one's aura, power, and divine ability would change. This also meant that when using this divine ability, one would have the physical body and divine ability of both the demon race and the demon race. Such a divine ability was heaven-defying. However, such a divine ability was not so easy to cultivate. Physical body cultivators had long declined. Cultivators with perfect physical bodies were almost extinct. Just this condition alone was enough to keep most people at bay. In addition, fusing with the blood and power of the demon race or the demon race was not something that ordinary cultivators could do. One might explode and die from the demon chi or the demon chi. One's primordial spirit and consciousness might be corroded by the evil aura and fall into the demon Tao. One might even turn into a monster that was neither human nor demon. These conditions made people shrink back at the sight of it. How many people dared to cultivate this fleshly body divine ability? Moreover, even if one managed to cultivate this divine ability, there would be huge side effects after using it. Therefore, this supreme divine ability was gradually lost. Domain Lord Wuzhen had unintentionally obtained this demon shape-shifting art from the ruins left behind by a peerless powerhouse who had perished. He understood the extraordinariness of this divine ability and eventually took the risk to cultivate this divine ability. He was originally a perfect physical body cultivator. Moreover, he did not have much time left and had no hope of becoming an overgod. Naturally, he wanted to take a gamble before his time was up. He did not expect that the Wuzhen region master would successfully cultivate the demon shape-shifting technique and use it to break through the shackles of cultivation and become an overgod. Who knew, the Wuzhen region master was unlucky. He had just become an overgod, and was happy for a few days when Jiang Taijie corrupted the river of the heavenly Tao and caused the heavenly Tao to lose its order. The heavenly Tao fell into chaos. The demon race and other evil forces that had been hiding in the dark world came out of the dark world and attacked the human cultivator's divine realm. The Wuzhen galaxy happened to be within the demon race's attack range. The unlucky Wuzhen region master was suppressed by the demon race. Since the Wuzhen region master had the demon shape-shifting technique, he was valued by the higher-ups of the demon race. They spared his life and used all means to force him to submit to the demon race. Then, they sent him to hide in the Yuan Tiangong. There were many powerful beings like the Wuzhen region master who had fled to the Yuan Tiangong after the destruction of the star field and divine realm. The Wuzhen region master had shown great strength at the peak of the ninth heaven of the Tao integration stage. Therefore, he easily joined the Yuan Tiangong. However, he was not given an important position. Coincidentally, the two realms battlefield was opened. Therefore, he was put in charge of escorting the Yuan Tiangong geniuses to the two realms battlefield. This time, the demon race secretly planned to use the Yuan Tiangong geniuses escorted by the Wuzhen region master as bait to lure and kill the heavenly Tao geniuses and Yuan Tiangong geniuses. The plan was very thorough and there was no way it would fail. However, the Wuzhen region master was too unlucky to encounter Su Feng. Not only did he cause the demon race to suffer great losses, but he also became a guest inside the prison suppressing codec. Demon shape-shifting technique. Who would have thought that there would be such a strange technique in the heavenly Tao that could turn human cultivators into demons? Chapter 2365. The big goblin could take the form of a human, and the devil could also take the form of a human cultivator by fusing with the body of a cultivator. However, for a human cultivator to take the form of a demon or a devil, and to do so at the same time, it was unheard of. At most, Cultivators of the devil Tao or the evil Tao could use their evil techniques to temporarily take the form of a demon or a devil. It was impossible for them to take the form, power, and even blood qi of a demon, let alone possess the innate abilities of a demon. Moreover, these forbidden techniques had great limitations. For example, the nightmare blood transformation that Su Fang mastered in the small world could easily cause him to fall into the devil Tao and be consigned to eternal damnation. However, the demon shape-shifting art could easily transform into the form of a cultivator, a demon, or a devil. It was truly incredible. If Su Fang had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have believed that there was such a powerful and strange ability in the world. The human body was so amazing. It encompassed the universe and had endless power. There was a limit to the cultivation of the great Tao and divine abilities, but there was no limit to the cultivation of the physical body. Su Fang especially valued the demon shape-shifting art's ability to change one's aura and appearance. Although it was not as good as the 3 human skins in his hands, it was superior in that it could change into a myriad of forms. QL11 Fortunately, he could no longer use the 3 human skins. As long as he mastered the demon shape-shifting art, this problem would be solved. Moreover, after entering the battlefield of the Two Realms River, he could transform into a big goblin or a devil. He could play an unexpected role and even have a greater chance of survival. As for the various restrictions of the demon shape-shifting art, Su Fang chuckled. My physical body has already reached perfection, and I also have other special constitutions. The dragon-subduing true body is actually a kind of demonic ability, and the blood transformation true body is a kind of demonic ability. Coupled with the power of my yin-yang world, I can fuse any energy, including demonic qi and demonic qi. The restrictions of cultivating the demonic shape-shifting art do not exist for me. Immediately, Su Fang created a time formation around him. Then, he began to study the demon shape-shifting art in the formation. About 3,000 years had passed in the formation. In the outside world, more than 100 years had passed. Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze became bright. I've already fully comprehended the fiendish demon shape-shifting art. It's a pity that I don't have the big goblin or the demons as cultivation materials. I can't truly cultivate this physical mystique for now. After 3,000 years of comprehension, Su Fang finally understood the fiendish demon shape-shifting art thoroughly. However, in order to cultivate the fiendish demon transfiguration art, one had to use a living big goblin or devil as a cultivation tool. One had to devour and fuse with their blood, fiendish qi or devil qi. By devouring any kind of big goblin or devil, one would be able to transform into the form of that big goblin or devil and use their abilities. Of course, there were limitations as well. It was impossible to devour and transform without limit. Otherwise, this mystical power would be too heaven-defying. With Domain Master Wuzhen's strength, he could only transform into 3 kinds of big goblin or devil at most. Any more and his perfect physical body would not be able to withstand the conflict between the different fiendish qi and devil qi. He might even be stuck in a certain state forever. The consequences would be unimaginable. Furthermore, the fiendish demon shape-shifting art had a great drawback. At the same time, it also brought great benefits to the practitioner. That was, in the state of a fiendish demon or devil, one could use the fiendish demon or devil's magical powers to devour the blood, qi, and energy of other practitioners or big goblin or devil and convert them into part of one's own cultivation. In this way, one's cultivation would naturally increase at an astonishing speed. It was no wonder that Domain Master Wuzhen could successfully ascend to the level of an overgod when he was nearing the end of his life. However, the drawback was also proportional to the benefit. When he underwent the tribulation, the chaotic divine tribulation he attracted would be more than 10 times more terrifying than that of other gods. The probability of him successfully undergoing the tribulation would be about the same as that of a fiendish god. This was also the reason why Domain Master Wuzhen was captured by the devils. He was lucky enough to successfully undergo the tribulation, but his vitality was greatly damaged. Coincidentally, the devils invaded. Otherwise, even if he could not defeat them, it would be easy for him to escape. This fiendish demon shape-shifting art might be an opportunity for me to ascend to the level of an over-god. This was what surprised Su Fang the most. Due to his cultivation of the supreme heavenly Tao and the changes in the world, it was very difficult for him to attract the chaotic divine tribulation. He had encountered such a problem when he ascended to the godly venerable realm. He only managed to solve this problem when he was in the Yuan Tiangong, when he ascended to the Tao-fusing realm. When he ascended to the level of an overgod, the Yuan Tiangong was too small for him to ascend to the next level. He was worried that it would be difficult for him to attract the chaotic divine tribulation when he ascended to the godly venerable realm. The fiendish demon shape-shifting art happened to solve this problem. As for the power of the divine tribulation, to Su Fang, the more powerful the better. First, I'll have to capture some big goblin and devil clan elites to test it out. Su Fang thought for a while, and made a decision in his heart. In his inner world, there were many demon gods in the inner space of the Builder Tree. They were all reared by the Ji people in the past. However, Su Fang had kept the stronger ones in the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. The remaining ones were all below the Divine Emperor realm. It was meaningless to use them for cultivation. If they were like Region Lord Wuzhen, they could only transform 3 times at most. It would be a waste of an opportunity. As for the powerful big goblin in the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, none of them were particularly top-notch. Moreover, Su Fang would not use his own subordinates as cultivation materials. As for the Devil Clan elites, Su Fang did not have a single one under his command at the moment. He could only try to suppress them when he encountered them in the future. Su Fang planned to find a way to sneak into the Two Realms River first, then find an opportunity to suppress them. After making up his mind, Su Fang immediately removed the human skin of the Turbid Wave Prince and replaced it with the human skin of the down-and-out middle-aged man. The identity of the Turbid Wave Prince was misunderstood as a practitioner possessed by Night Demon. Naturally, he could no longer use it in the future. At this time, his appearance had been exposed in the divine prison of heavenly law. However, only Diyuan, Chu Bingyan, and Qian Gang knew about it. Su Fang planned to sneak into the Two Realms River first. The Two Realms River was so big that he could not be so unlucky as to encounter one of the 3 people at once like this time. It took Su Fang more than 100 years to leave the chaotic void. Finally, he arrived at the back of the Two Realms River. Looking from afar, one could only see a canopy separating heaven and earth. It was as if heaven and earth had formed naturally and forcibly separated heaven and earth. Of course, this shocking barrier was not naturally formed. Instead, it was created by the guardian of the celestial Exalt Mountain, the supreme expert of the world, with a supreme ability that surpassed the heavens and the earth. It was a boundless barrier that divided the myriad worlds into 2. The canopy blocked the resurrected experts, the Devil Clan, and the Dark Force on the other side. At the same time, it also meant that countless human beings on the other side of the canopy had been completely abandoned and were at the mercy of the evil forces. Due to the barrier of the canopy, it was impossible to see what was on the other side. Behind the canopy of the sky were pieces of floating matter created by supreme divine powers, forming a huge and boundless formation. It was like a large world. Obviously, it was the work of those supreme sovereigns, who had created this place as a front line to defend against the resurrection of experts. The material was not an ordinary city, but an incomparably sturdy castle. Within the castle, there were palaces and buildings created by materials, formations, and divine powers. Unlike the buildings in the other divine realms, all the buildings here looked incomparably sturdy. They were like fortresses. There were no magnificent and flashy buildings. From the buildings there was a cold, sharp, and murderous aura, as well as a strong evil spirit. Even with Su Fang's current cultivation, he could not help but feel a chill all over his body when he sensed this terrifying aura from so far away. Behind the canopy, outside the divine realm, there was also a powerful bounded domain. Su Fang used his great perfection ability and projected his sensing power. After sensing for a while, Su Fang could not help but frown. Not only were there teams of immortals patrolling outside the bounded domain, but any immortals who entered the bounded domain would be strictly interrogated. They would even have to leave a primordial spirit imprint for the record. Also, to pass through the canopy and enter the river of two realms on the other side of the canopy, they would have to go through the divine realm. This is troublesome. Entering the river of two realms is not as easy as I thought. Su Fang tried to think of a way to enter the divine realm. Buzzing, 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 Su Fang never expected that while he was thinking hard about a solution, there would be some Taoist runes from the life-shortening skill in his mind around his divine aperture. Next, his great perfection ability sensed that about 100,000 miles away, more than a dozen cultivators had flashed into an abyss where time and space had collapsed. They disappeared in an instant. Because they were too fast, like a fleeting glimpse, and because of the abyss influence, the life-shortening skill could not clearly sense who they were. Who is that? Why is he acting so sneakily again? Su Fang was very surprised. Immediately, his figure flashed and he appeared outside the abyss. This abyss was obviously not formed naturally. It was caused by the bounded domain's isolation from heaven and earth, causing the natural energy of heaven and earth to become unbalanced, causing time and space to collapse. Around the bounded domain, there were many similar abysses where time and space had collapsed. These abysses were very dangerous. Ordinary path integration realm cultivators could lose their lives if they entered. Moreover, there were no treasures inside, so very few people entered. Su Fang thought for a moment, then flashed and flew into the abyss. There were undercurrents constantly flowing in the abyss. Even with Su Fang's cultivation, he had to be careful. Although it was not fatal, it would not be easy if he was caught in the undercurrents. Moreover, there were experts in the abyss who he did not know whether they were friends or foes. He searched for the remaining weak auras as he carefully went deeper into the abyss. About 10 days later, Su Fang suddenly stopped and stared at the dark abyss in front of him. Devil Chi. There are Devil Clan experts hidden in this abyss. Could it be that the aura I sensed before was from Devil Clan experts? Therefore, Su Fang used the life-shortening skill again to sense the aura. Then, a look of surprise and astonishment appeared on his face. In the depths of the dark abyss, there was a formation. In the formation, there were more than 10 devil gods.